How long do you have on this?
8 years. This will be my 9th year.
How many do you have now? Were you saying?
36.
I've always said
Do you have a llama problem?
My wife thinks I do now because my hay bill is about $8,000 a year.
How much?
About 8,000.
Okay.
That's still way cheaper
That's
than a horse.
actually cheaper than I thought.
Oh, way cheaper than a horse.
And I compare that to what it would take to keep a horse. I think you're doing all right.
I have 9 llamas at my house. Not 9 boys at my house right now. I'm getting ready to move 5 more up there, but I have 9. No, that's not true. There's 11. And they eat a bale and a half a day. That's a small bale.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
No.
So $6, $7 a day, would depend on where you get your hay.
Going into hunting season, how many llamas will you have? Are you selling some of these, I would assume?
I'm going to sell some females. I'm not selling males. I got so much demand for rentals right now. I turn away so many people. I've got more business in rental than I can even possibly do. But see, I'm just now getting to the point where I have enough for 2 groups. Mm-hmm. Before, it was always, I had to rent them, and I did during times I wasn't using them, which is not very much. Mm-hmm. And but now I've got enough guys coming up and comers now. So really, let me back up. I started breeding myself about 4 years ago. So I'm just getting now to the point where my prodigy or my babies are
stay there. Look, good ones. Okay,
are packing.
Do you want to fix it, B-Mills?
No, I'll walk over. We keep talking. Keep talking, Mark.
No more drinking for me.
That's the quick fix. You're going to drink, you're going to have to put your hand in there.
But so I'm just now getting to the point where the babies that I'm raised are packing, which is kind of exciting because up to this point,
that is cool.
I've been buying packers, right?
You got your own stock now.
I've bought like 6 or 7 male llamas over the years. That's it. The rest of all my up and comers are from my females that I've bred. And I've gotten lucky knowing Bo and having access to some really good studs, males with my females. And I've got some exceptional females. They're, I don't pack the females because they're pregnant all the time. Mm-hmm. But the females pack great. They're actually probably easier to train than the males.
Are they easier going in the field?
But you can't mix them. So you have to decide. If you're going to get into llamas, you either got to go all males or all females. You can't. I tried to go on a hunt one time with a guy that had females. Oh my gosh!
All females or
my llamas would not lay down. They'd paced all night. They were wearing themselves down. They could hardly pack. They were so worn out from just wanting to hang out with them girls.
Fest the whole time.
And that was with a mixed bag, males and females.
No, that was a whole group of females separate. Oh, you couldn't even get them near each other.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's game on. So the way llamas breed is when you bring them together. There's no, there's no season. There's no rut. There's no.
Sounds like
it's
humans.
Just boom. Whenever
They're ready to mingle.
Yeah, they're ready 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Llama action.
I've always said if I had property, and obviously in Las Vegas because they would just melt. But if I had property somewhere, I would own llamas. I think llamas are. It's not a podcast about llamas, but like
you hunted with them.
I've hunted with them, and I want to ask Ryan personally, Lampers, like why pack goats? Because I've used pack goats. I mean, yeah, they were great. They worked, but they're not a llama.
No, they're not.
And he says they go in super steep terrain. I've taken llamas, 3 or 4 times, and I've taken them places you cannot get a horse in that area. And I'm like, I don't think you can take a pack goat either because their legs are too short and they're too small. So you go in late season hunts. Sure, they can hop around and do their things, but like a llama can just carry.
Brady's worried that they couldn't keep up with you. That's what you're worried about.
Yeah,
right?
they're really slow.
They are slow.
Yeah.
You gotta, and even llamas are 2 miles an hour.
Oh, nice.
That's
right up my alley.
About 2.2. Mike can handle 2.2 for about 10, 13 miles a day pretty easily.
So then my biggest question is, you talked Bo. Do you know that llama Renegade that Bo had? The black llama.
Renegade.
It's really skinny, long-legged.
Would you do something to him?
No, like he specifically let me use that llama. He's like, I got a perfect llama for you. This llama goes fast.
Oh, for your long leg.
Yeah.
So he was fast.
Yeah, it was fast. He could keep
so
up with me.
So he could do 3 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah, he could keep up as fast as I
really?
wanted to go. And he would constantly push me in the back, wants to go faster. And like that was my favorite llama of all time.
Well, that's the thing. When we breed llamas, now I'm changing my tune a little bit, guys. Originally, everybody wants big, right? Taller and bigger.
Yeah, this one was like a little bit more lanky.
Yeah, but I'm changing. I like these skinnier, lankier llamas. They seem to be able to go longer, and they're faster, and they're just efficient. Then these big monsters can carry a lot of weight, but but they are a little more sluggish.
They're linebackers.
They are. They're linebackers. So I like that middle, that 50-inch, 50 maybe 51-inch tall. You get above that 50, and they start becoming, you're getting close to that 400-pound mark, and they're pretty beastie at that point. And to be honest, I mean, I've lost 4 llamas in 3 years, and all the ones I've lost have been my biggest. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means anything, but my 4 biggest llamas are the ones that I've lost.
What's the lifespan of a llama?
I just put one down this last winter.
Okay.
He was 23.
Oh, okay.
Dang.
And he packed that year. The winter was too much. The winter before, this is the best story. He was in the barn. It was minus, and it was one of those times where there was a bunch of snow on the pine trees, and it warmed up, so it was just dripping. And they got soaked where they're at on the mountainside in my house. Well, then it plummeted temperature, right? That's kind of the worst scenario for llamas when they get soaked and then it freezes. Well, he laid down. He's older. He laid down for too long. He froze to the ground.
Oh, wow.
Froze to the ground. So I went out there and I didn't see him. And I'm like, so I go in the barn. And he's laying on his side like he's dead. And I was like, well,
23 though. I mean, it's
he had a
probably
good life.
probably
I
just
thought he
time to
died.
go.
So I walked up to him and I kind of just felt him. He was still warm. I'm like, and he kind of lifted his head. I'm like, shit, he's alive. So he's kind of struggling to get up. And so I kind of helped him. I kind of caused more of the problem. So I kind of just lifted him up. And he stood up and I didn't even notice it. So I knew he was in trouble. So I took him in the house. My wife took him into the basement and put out a blanket. He just laid in the basement. So I left him in there. I went upstairs, came back down, and I was looking at his back end, and it was gone. Like the hide was gone. Nothing but muscle.
Wow.
And I was like,
dang,
about this big. And I'm like, what in the heck? I'm like, dude, I got down there. I'm like, it wasn't bleeding or nothing. And I was like, when he got up, it was stuck. It was froze to the ground outside.
Oh, man.
When I went to the barn, there was a patch of hair.
Poor
froze
guy.
to the ground. And when he got up, he ripped it off.
Yikes. That's
So
crazy.
but anyway, he made it through that winter.
Okay.
I had him for like a week in the house. And then it warmed up and he went back outside and he was fine.
He's just living in your basement?
No, and then the next, he was just living in the basement. The great thing about llamas is they poop in the same spot too. They're like a cat.
Yeah.
So I just had to clean up poop in one spot.
I didn't know that.
That sounds better than trail.
So,
That's right. I roam.
So he was in the basement for about a week and I took him back out. But he packed that year all season and did great. And then that next winter, which was this past winter, he was kind of doing the same thing. Got cold, he couldn't get up, and I just decided that. So I did it on my terms. I had him just put to sleep, so he just wasn't going to make it.
I've never done a hunt with a llama.
So I bought him from a commercial pack string. So he had been packing commercially too. So to be 25 years is not uncommon. I hear guys that pack for 25 years. You can't get 25 years out of a goat. And I'm not here to bash goats. I think because I've hunted, I've kind of changed my tune on goats a little. I'll be honest with you. Since Ryan got his, and I got another friend that I've been hunting with him. Now they're a little soft. Let's just be honest. They don't like to be wet, and they don't like to be cold. And
every day you leave the goats tied up, they like whine and like want to be with you.
Tied up,
and then,
really.
and then at night, they literally want to hop in the tent with you.
Yeah,
They're
they
like dogs.
chew on stuff.
They literally want to be with you all the time.
thing.
Like they want to cuddle with you.
Oh, what was
Like a
driving
dog
me
would.
nuts is we're glassing. I got my spotting scope set, and the goats kept coming up and touching their nose to my scope. They just like look in there and they just stick their nose. I'm like,
Yeah, that won't work.
then I got to clean my scope.
Yeah, the only thing I haven't personally used, I've had pack mules packing stuff for me when I used to work in Glacier National Park on some of the long work trips we had, but never haven't used it for hunting. But that's the only animal I have not used is a pack mule on a hunt. I've used horses, obviously goats, llamas. I don't know if there's anything else out there that can pack.
I've used mules, not my mules, but just with a friend that had mules. They were pretty handy. Yeah, riding a mule's nice.
The the bottom line for me is I like the hiking part. I want to do that part of it. I like to be able to go off trail. I want animals that can do the off trail. The horses they're okay at it, but they're not great at it, right?
Every horse I've had has wanted to buck me off.
Yeah, they don't like off trail, and they certainly don't like.
I think I just hated
shale,
in the horse
like
world.
shale, and any of that kind of stuff. Water crossings, whatever. But my biggest thing is I don't want to manage the animals when I'm hunting.
Yeah.
I don't want to mess with them. I don't want to be bothered with them. I want to hunt. So with horses, it's constant, high line, all the things.
Yeah.
Goats are kind of the same way. It seems like every time it looks like it's going to rain, you got to put a tarp up so you can get under it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Tarp? He's like, oh yeah, we got to put a tarp up. I'm like, for the goats? My llamas are out there completely. You can't even see them. They're covered up in snow, right? They'll lay there for 2 weeks.
Really?
I've staked my llamas out for 10, 14 days.
And they're content.
Never moved them.
Huh.
Feed them give them a few pellets. If there's grass, they don't even need that.
How old were when you got llamas? Or did you have like a moment? Was there a hunt, or were you like, okay, I need
no,
something?
So when I moved from Missouri, so I'd been coming out here in the West. This would be my 34th elk season. So I've been coming out obviously for years and years, 27 years from Missouri, and I would do 30 days, whatever at a time, and I could do that. I could pull that off in my 30s and 40s. Mm-hmm. But I turned 50 when I moved out here. And I decided that I'm coming to Mecca now. I retired, kind of. I knew I was going to hunt 100 days a year. I already had planned that's what I was going to hunt, about 100 days a year. Well, I knew I couldn't do it with a backpack. I don't know very many people that can, even young guys. Everything's fun until something hits the ground. You guys know how that goes, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. And I solo hunt. So until I met Ryan and Brian and we started filming stuff, dude, I don't hunt with anybody. I'm a solo guy. So by myself, hunting solo 100 days a year, I had to do something. So I looked at everything. I looked at I looked at all the options. But I met Bo Beatty at the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Rendezvous. Mm-hmm. And I got my chance he had a couple llamas there, and I was kind of like, oh, that's the ticket. Mm-hmm. And so I got on the waiting list, and I thought it was going to be a while, but there's a guy got cancer, or something happened to this guy, and he had a herd, some good ones. And Bo called me and said, hey, this guy's selling. I really don't need these boys. He goes, I'm going to buy all the girls. If you're interested in the boy, I said, I'll take them. So I bought 4 right all at once, back when they were cheap, at $3,000 each.
Oh, wow.
That was cheap. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know how cheap it was, right? They were all about the 5-year-old range, 6-year-old range, except for the old guy. Dude, they were incredible. But it was like, I bought them right. It was like...
That's still $12,000 in llamas.
No, it's more than that because it's $1,000 per llama for tack.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it's another $4,000 on top of that.
Yeah.
And
you're $15K in llamas.
I hit the ground running. I mean, I had the best. There was no training involved. I just showed up at the trailhead day one, and boom, we're hiking and we're killing. We're packing out stuff, and I didn't even know what I was doing. And you can't hardly mess up llamas. If you can lead a dog, you can lead llama. That's how we can rent them. That's why people don't rent horses that often. They're hard to rent. Yep. Yeah. Horse, unless you have a very special horse.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of knowledge to do horses. But like a llama is like, okay, a 45-minute training course, you can do it because you understand how to take care of a dog. Like you said, you can take care of a llama.
A lot of it's common sense, right? And
there's not fancy knots you have to know.
Well, now I have an online course now where we teach them how to do it online. And then they come for like a 30-minute little hands-on, and then they're ready to go.
So the thing I was joking with to myself, I think I mentioned it maybe to Omar here. I was like, how did Livesay go moose hunting this year and didn't have his llamas with him? So I pitched the idea to Omar. I'm like, the next time you go, and I'm going to pitch it to you right now. All right, you're going to take a boat from Seattle.
He's taking a llama. You're going to Alaska.
You're going to ship your llamas
on
a journey all the way to Alaska. You're going to film the whole thing, okay? You're going to be on the boat with your llamas, day by day, filming the boat. You're going to get to Alaska. You're going to get to Alaska. You're going to throw them on a jet boat. Whatever you need to do, you're going to get somewhere else, and you're going to have llamas in Alaska. You'd be the first guy to transport them down here, bring them up there for a hunt. And it would probably be game changers.
Those long legs, that tundra, they'd handle that.
Yeah, I wonder how they do. They probably
would handle it. Probably they handle water. They're just great.
That's what I'm saying.
If you could get them there.
So then the other business plan, you can throw me a commission if you want for this other business idea. You can have a llama rental service in Alaska that you get some other buddy run. I've been brainstorming this for a while, and now you're here. I can talk about it.
I have a friend of mine that puts his llamas in a jet boat. And they go up in Idaho, I don't want to say the river. They go up the river in a jet boat with their llamas, and they've taught them to jump in and out. And so getting them in's easy, getting them out's hard. No, getting them out's easy, getting them back in the boat when it's time to come home, because they have a ramp to get them in, and then they jump over the side to get out. But when they get back in, it's a bigger jump, right? Mm-hmm. But they do it. So they go up, and those canyons are massive and deep. Yeah. So they get out, and then they go up, and they hunt elk. And they're hunting elk in places that
people aren't hunting elk.
Horses don't go there. Yeah. Nowhere can go.
I'm thinking we got a really good idea in going. You have llama rental service in Alaska. You document this thing, the whole journey.
Moving them around. Like, we're on, like, beavers.
Yeah, I know. You're already limited on how to get there, and the travel time's already difficult. But like, how cool would it be to have a llama in Alaska?
Well, so this year on the
Chase
moose
moose.
hunt, you did the same hunt. I went. We were similar, but not the same. How many moose did I not kill because we're like looking at them like it's 5 miles. That's too much. Can't
yeah,
get it.
it's hard to get over there.
You can get
try
there,
to kill
but just
it.
get them back. That's the problem. And we didn't have. There's no way to float it out, so we would have had to pack it.
Yeah, like
well, we killed one at 1.5 miles.
I've done that too. One at 2.
One at 2 miles.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan and them
I
killed one
didn't
at
kill
1.5
him.
miles, and
My
he said
buddy
it was
killed
one of
it.
the worst things they'd done. It was only 1.5 miles.
Yeah, look at the one I did with them. Like that was 2.25, 2.5. Like that was stupid, but it was fun now talking about it. But yeah, if you had a llama
But
there,
there's so many giant moose out there that you can't get to, right?
Yeah, I know. I came home from that hunt being like, okay, I did it. I'm good. I don't need to go
Well, I'm
back.
kind of addicted to it. I
No,
have
they're
been,
cool. I get it, but man, they're a lot of work.
especially this year. I had a chance at a giant, and day
remember-
before the season.
I was watching your live stream.
Oh, was you? Day
Oh, yeah.
before the dang season, we had a 74-inch, and the reason I know it's 74 because a resident killed it the day we left, and he sent me a picture of it. We ran into the dudes at the bar, and he recognized Ryan, of course, and we got to talk, and
I think guys would recognize you more.
we didn't, well, whatever. And so we didn't tell him where we were at, but he was just blabbing where they were going. I'm like, they're going to our same lake. So we literally flew out and they flew in.
Oh.
Well, the residents there, they get to hunt during the prime rut, and the non-residents not the best time, but it's okay. So anyway, the day before the season, at 10 o'clock at night, the season opens at midnight. In Alaska, there's no shooting hours.
Like,
But it fogged in and got overcast. But anyway, at about 10 o'clock at night, we're at the tent, we're overlooking this bottom. And I went in the tent, I walked right back out, and I glanced over, and here's this moose. And he is massive.
yeah.
And I'm like, there ain't no doubt that one's 50 inches, right?
Yeah.
Because there was this 50-inch rule, right? But I didn't even know it was brow tines. And so I went in and grabbed my binoculars. He has 5. So he has plenty of brow tines and he has plenty of white. So I filmed him for over an hour.
Oh.
About 11 o'clock, I texted Ryan just to double check. I in-reached him. I said, now, I'm looking at this moose. Can I shoot this thing at 12:01 legally? He texted back, yes. I'm like, oh, so I tracked this thing. I followed him till about 11 o'clock, and then he got into brush. It got dark and got foggy, and I just couldn't see him anymore. So I thought the next morning it was going to be a slam dunk.
You're gonna be the hero.
We couldn't
coolest
turn
thing
that
ever.
thing up. And it took us 2 more days to turn him up, and he was 4 miles away. So we went after him even at 4 miles, which is ridiculous. We get all the way over there, and we can't turn him up again. This is wide open, and I don't know how he's getting away from us, right?
Yeah.
We saw him 3 or 4 times, and but I never was able to kill him. So anyway, we flew out. Residents go in, they kill him. He sent me a picture. He measured 74.
Is it incredible an animal that big can just kind of disappear and evade you?
Dude, like the littlest patch of alders.
Yeah. Can just.
When they're not rutting, when they just lay down a lot, they're just hard to.
Yeah, hard to pick out.
Yeah.
Once they get moving, then they're pretty
And it
easy.
surprises me too about why they move when they move. Like sometimes there's no reason. Because we were up there, there was cows all over the place.
Dude, they're just crossing the tundra
Yeah.
for no reason. Miles of walking.
On a mission.
Yeah, and they probably
Like
come
you
back
look like, where's he
7
going?
days later. Like, who knows?
Yeah. Well, do you want to do an actual introduction here before we? We're
Well, so I want to
20
say
minutes in.
I want to say something too. This is probably one of my favorite cold openings we've done, and I'm going to say it because I don't want you to talk about it right now. So do not talk about this. But we did not talk about sports.
We didn't. Not
Great,
once.
that was a great one. Okay,
We did at lunch.
We did lunch, yes. But that was a good cold
We
intro.
got that out of the way.
Yeah.
But we
now
have a
can do-
guest.
Now you got all this B-roll you can go pull the clips from, right? Okay.
Exactly.
We have Mark Livesay with us today. You were kind enough to make the trip down. You said you started at what? Your flight was 4 a.m. this morning.
It was 5:30, so I was there about 4.
4 bright and early. So we
But
appreciate
once
you
a
coming
year,
down.
whether I need it or not, it's pretty cool. Once a year.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, we kind of introduced this podcast. We met we saw each other at the Hunt Expo, and we filmed inside the Cybertruck. I just released that like on Tuesday.
I saw that. I watched that one. Yeah.
And I've got a lot of good feedback. It just got started on Tuesday. So
Yeah. And we already sort of titled this podcast, and I looked it up. The last time we had you down here was, this is when we released it, July 20th of 2023. So it's been a while.
oh man, it's been
since
a year
that
and a
one.
half even.
So that podcast title was the greatest e-scouting podcast ever with Mark Livesay. And so this is going to be the greatest e-scouting podcast ever,
2.0.
2.0 or part 2, whatever you want to call
Part
that.
deuce.
Part deuce. So we're gonna talk e-scouting. I mean,
it's a lot to live up to.
Yeah, it is. I hope you're ready.
Yeah, I know. You guys already got something else planned for me just to see what I'm really made out of.
Yeah, the next thing we're going to do later, so stay tuned for this YouTube video, but it's going to be really fun. We're going to put Mark to the test and see if he can find some elk on areas that we know elk exist.
For sure.
Oh, man.
We assume they exist.
We assume. But we kind of know too. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, we're good. No, we appreciate you coming down.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Do you want to do promo? Should we do promo?
Let's hit a
promo real quick, and then we'll get going. So you guys can use the promo code podcast. That's just podcast. When you sign up for a Go Hunt Insider membership, we're going to give you $50 back in the Go Hunt gear shop, and you can use that towards the purchase of any gear that you want in the shop. And now is still a great time to sign up for an insider account. We still have tons of applications upcoming. We have probably the bulk, I guess, right? We're really only through Arizona and Wyoming elk.
Yeah, you probably saw the other day, Montana regs came out.
Montana regs are out.
In Colorado. I mean,
Colorado, New Mexico's coming up here pretty quick, March 19th, I want to say. Utah's still upcoming, and then Wyoming mule deer, antelope. There's a bunch of draws.
The best are still to come.
Yeah, and I've been living in the insider. It's just like this year's. I'm trying to cash my points in for Colorado.
There you go.
And I'm super worried about it because last year we 100% drew with the points we have. I don't think that's going to happen this year. With everything being first choice, people are going to start dumping points, and I'm worried that it's going to drive the point creep about 1 or 2 points.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think on that?
I think people with a lot of points are probably going to. Well, I'm on the fence because here's the thing: if you got a lot of points, you have 2 frames of mind. One, you burn your points before your points are worth less because there's less permits available to people with preference points.
You're basically going to cut them in 2028. Harder to get.
Or you retain your points, and at that point you apply for best of the best units in hopes that your random odds get that much better and you draw the best of the best. So it's hard to say what people are going to do. I think probably my gut says more people will dump them than not. I think a lot of people like in that mid tier, maybe 8 to 15 point range. I think you're going to see those people dump them.
That's where I'm at.
Dumping
that's what I'm
points.
worried about. Because here's what I'm worried about. Is like I know guys like me. My first 19 years of elk hunting, I hunted Colorado. Now I hunt some other states too, but I always did Colorado. And then if I could draw Wyoming, which is pretty much every other year at the time, and then New Mexico, I used to draw New Mexico. This is how old I am, guys. I used to draw New Mexico like
always,
all the time.
Yeah.
And then I drew 6 out of 8 years in New Mexico, I think. But then I didn't draw a tag for 22 years.
Yeah.
In New Mexico. I just drew one like 3 years. I was telling you a story 3 years ago or something. But what I'm worried about is in Colorado is all these guys have been getting points, and then doing over the counter, getting points, and just banking them.
Yep.
Well, now with the way I understand it, the archery tag now is a tag.
It's a draw tag.
So it's a first choice.
Well, you could still draw it.
You still drew in second.
You could still draw it as second choice. Granted, there weren't enough permits to satisfy the number of people.
Which there probably will be. They say they're going to do a lot.
They will, but it doesn't last for long. So, I've said this before, but I monitored and kind of watched the units that maybe 3 years ago went from OTC to draw tags. And the first year, they were all available as a second choice. And then there were even turn back options that you could pick up. The next year, still available as a first choice. A few second choice, to the point where now 3 years later, almost all of those are being allocated in the first choice in the first draw. So I think you probably got about 3 years, maybe 4 years, where you'll probably have some of those available as a second choice, and I think you'll probably see that disappear.
Well, that would be good. If people can draw them as a second choice, maybe it'll keep the dump down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I don't know. We're a little worried about it. Because you got 2 choices. Either you go for the moon or you got to back it up a little and go for a 6-point unit or 7, whatever you got. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
you can always be a rifle hunter.
Yeah, well.
Second and third rifle.
Yeah,
I think that's what's going to happen. I think you'll see a lot of people that just apply for a point or apply for a hunt. And then I think you're going to see a lot of those archery hunters that were doing OTC archery. I think those guys will buy over-the-counter second or third rifle tags because it's available to them.
And that'll be interesting if 3-4 years down the road they make that a draw.
It will be a draw. I
think that'll be next year.
That's in the plan.
So you can have all that pressure going on to it.
It's already in the plan.
I can't believe. Now, I know the archery pressure is intense, but my last hunt in Colorado was a rifle OTC, and it was, if I wouldn't have had llamas, I wouldn't have gone. When we pulled up the trailhead, it was nutsoville.
Yeah.
I mean, insane. And then my buddy that I was with said, no, Mark, and we're on the way out. He's trying to, calm me down. He said, Mark, when we get there, you're gonna get real stressed out. And he says, just trust me. He goes, I know where we're going. Nobody's gonna be there, and but it's gonna seem like when we get there, it's not gonna be. You're not gonna like it. I'm like, dude, it's no problem. And he kept saying it like multiple times. We turned the corner, and I'm like, what is going on here?
You're like, I really
They're
don't like
putting
it.
tents. They're using a Milwaukee drill, and they're drilling screws in to put tents in the road. They've closed one lane of the road down, and they're putting tents in the road because the trail can't accommodate any more people.
Wow.
And we hike our llamas through the middle of all these people. And I'm thinking, it's the day before opener or whatever. I said, where are these people going to go? What direction are they going to go?
Yeah.
There's so many, hundreds of people. But we actually didn't see very many hunters. We were there was no water. So we packed water in with our llamas, and people just couldn't go where we were. But just the sheer numbers of people for rifle, I can't believe they're going to let it go much longer.
Yeah, I think they'll eventually convert it. I've heard a lot of talk that people close to CPW, it's like, yeah, that's kind of the way
Next
it's headed.
phase.
Yeah, the next phase of it, which I'm neither here nor there. I mean, it stinks that you lose opportunity, but then, you force people to apply for a hunt and draw it as a first choice. I still think there's a lot of those that you'll be able to draw as a first choice.
Yeah.
You'll just have to, pick and choose and pick your unit versus having a lot of
I think a
ability.
lot of people are hopefully this year's going to be a wait and see approach, kind of like see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I think this first year, and they're going to, from what I've heard, I've listened to a few podcasts, and what it seems to be the trend is they're really going to give out quite a few tags to see where everything's at.
Yep.
And then they'll probably ratchet it. So the first couple of years, it's probably not going to be that hard to draw. The only thing that kind of is tough now is you got to pick a unit.
Yeah.
And you got to burn your points if you don't go as a second choice.
Yeah.
So I think there's so many. Maybe you can answer this. So I have not been able to find it. How many point holders there are in Colorado? Does anybody know that?
Yeah, I'm sure we do.
Because I've looked, I can find every other state except Colorado.
Yeah,
I would not find where they publish it.
I would have to dive in and look, but I think we
Because
do.
it shocked me in Wyoming. I did a podcast. I did on my little Thrive show just recently, and I was talking about Wyoming. And I was able to look Wyoming. There's 196,000 people that have greater than 1 point. 200,000 people.
Yeah.
When they give out 12,000 tags, the math doesn't work out very good.
Yeah.
So I'm figuring just I went to public school, but 200,000 people in Wyoming, that's got to be equivalent to 400,000 in Colorado.
Probably. At a minimum, I would say, given the fact that
Because they've been on
Colorado.
a point system for 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, given the fact Colorado's got 300,000 elk and everybody from the Midwest, I mean, it's the first stop, right? Whether
But
you're from
you think about
Wisconsin or-
that number of people with points. Now all of a sudden they've got an incentive to start
Yeah, to
using
use them. Yeah.
That's what I'm a little worried about.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do I know? That's why I'm a member of GOHUNT. Because
I got you.
you guys work all that out, right? I just kind of read your strategy
right.
articles.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions about it, and I think reality is you're probably going to have to take a year or two after 2028 to see where people kind of fell. Like, what happened, what they decided to do.
In the
didn't mean to go down
state
that
of
rabbit hole.
Colorado, there are 68,840 people as of last year who have 3 points or greater.
Greater.
3 points
or
and greater.
For what species?
68,000?
For
I'm
elk?
just doing elk because we got Mr. Elk.
That's
Yeah.
all? I thought it'd be more than that.
No,
3
28
points or greater. But you probably have how many? I'll bet you have another 20 or 30 with 0 to 2.
Maybe
Yeah,
you
these
could double
are
that.
the
or 50.
yeah, these
maybe?
are the people who are obviously applying to, not like
Sure.
just doing points only. So you'll definitely have more.
Well, that's the other thing, too. I read in the rules. You guys didn't probably know. You guys know. I don't know. We didn't really want to get into this, but
Everything's on the table.
you can't get preference points only anymore in Colorado. You have to apply for the tag or apply for points. You can't do it as a
first choice.
The first choice thing I think is
you can't get a preference point anymore. Like just buy it like you used to.
So
You
you always had to apply for it with the code as your
Right.
as your first choice.
But the way I'm understanding, am I wrong about that? Like,
I think that you can up until I don't know. I could be wrong. I would probably need to go back. I better not say it.
yeah, because you're the
definitely
trust.
because
But
somebody
the
will,
point
will
is
call me on it.
there's a lot of fine. There's a lot of fine details to these changes.
Yeah, there are.
And it's going to rock the boat. It's going to
sure.
put a lot more pressure on these other states like Montana, Wyoming, Idaho for sure. Idaho's already outrageous. All these states are outrageous now.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if I don't know. I'm really curious with Colorado because if there are random tags now available for units and hunts that people have never had a chance in because there's no random component of their draw, will that disperse people across the face of the different hunts that are available? And will some of these like mid to low tier actually become easier to draw because now you've got more people that are swinging for the fences? Like they only want to hunt the 2 or the 201 or the 76 or 61, you know? So it might be really interesting to see what happens. I mean,
well, it's going to be
maybe some of those low, they might be easier to get.
Well,
I don't know.
They're 3 decades into this point. So people have been playing this game for 3 decades, and they just yanked the rug out from underneath those guys. And it is a game. I mean, it's a complete game, and that's what's kind of fun about it. Also, I like it. Hey, this is the kind of stuff that keeps you guys in business.
And this is almost
the more
just as
complicated
exciting
it
as
gets,
hunting
the more
season.
important GoHunt becomes.
I mean, we were talking at lunch, like neither of us really gamble. I mean, this is my only form of real gambling, you know. And like my kid drew an elk tag in Arizona. He's 12, first year applying. He just finished Hunter's Ed in December, I think.
Oh man!
And I mean that just makes it fun, you know, like when you see that result come back and like either I or my kid drew a tag. It's just
the difference between you and me is I don't
awesome.
ever see that result. I can't draw a premium tag to save my life.
I never do, but my kids have, and my wife has, but not me.
I did just pull up the preference point thing in Colorado, so I want to clarify it for people listening in case they just heard that and a little confusing. So preference points are accrued. Sorry, I can't even talk right now. Preference points are accrued in 2 different ways: by purchasing a point during the primary draw application period, or 2, if unsuccessful in drawing a first choice license during the primary draw. The first choice preference point only hunt code for each species is eliminated.
So you can apply for a hunt that
you
you
can apply
won't
for a
draw.
hunt. Yep, apply for a hunt and you won't draw, and you'll get a preference point.
And get a preference point.
Or you can purchase a point
as a second
during
choice.
the application period.
Yeah. There you go. You were right. You nailed it.
Well,
I think also I want to clarify too. I don't think we mentioned the last part of our promo code. We got on a little tangent there. Just have to use promo code podcast, and you'll get 50 points back to the GoHunt Gear Shop by signing up for an insider account. I don't think we mentioned the second part of that.
Oh, gotcha.
So if you guys are listening, you're not a member. Obviously, you've heard all the benefit of why you need to be a member.
Dude, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a member, you're kind of a special kind of. I mean, dude. We spend thousands of dollars on tags, literally thousands, and the mistakes that you can make. It's one mistake. Well, I'm just going to give you an example. In my 30 years, I've missed 2 deadlines that were critical. So one of them was Colorado. Right now, I would have 1 point over. Yeah. I would probably get this tag because you guys did not have your reminder service available back then.
Is that crazy? 1 year,
one year I missed it, guys, and now I'm at the mercy of not getting this tag.
Yeah.
12, 15 years waiting, and I made a mistake on 1 year because it's like April, and I kind of, you kind of get out of the groove by April.
Yeah.
And so I missed that one. And then the year I moved to Wyoming, a quick story. This is fun. This is a good one. We moved to Wyoming. Moved to Montana. My wife's like, she's the one, I was working like crazy. She knew I was struggling. She goes, "You're retiring. We're moving west." I'm like, I didn't believe her at first, but long story, we did it. Best thing I ever did. The only thing I regret is I should have done 10 years earlier. But the first year I'm in Montana, right? I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I was a non-resident, but I don't care. Back then you could buy Montana tags over the counter as a non-resident, right? So anyway, application season comes up, and I'm laying in bed. I'm asleep. I jump up out of my bed. It's January 31st. It's midnight. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh my God. I just missed the Wyoming deadline. I ran downstairs. I missed it. My wife's like, Luke, she thinks something's wrong. I come back. I am so distraught, right? This stuff's important to hunters.
Yeah.
She just doesn't understand.
Yeah, your whole year's built around it.
My whole life just went down the tube.
Yeah, it is.
Right? And so, I'm just stomping around mad at myself. So she's a little, she had moved out there just for me to do this. So she thinks I think she's thinking that I'm suicidal, which I was almost. And so the next day, she calls. She didn't tell me about it until after she did it. She called Wyoming Game and Fish. See if there's anything she could do. She goes,
that's pretty
gave
sweet
him
of
the
her.
story, and the guy listened to her and everything. And he finally said, "Ma'am, there's just nothing.
Nothing you can do, yeah."
But you know what? That's a wife. She
tried
to.
She genuinely cares about you and your well-being.
Offer money, whatever it took.
That's hilarious.
So I guess that the Wyoming people, they can't be bribed. So I guess that's a good thing. So anyway, my wife sure tried, but I appreciate it. But so my point is, I missed 2. in all my years, and they both were critical because they put me behind.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
Yep. So don't miss deadlines.
Don't miss deadlines.
Yeah, the long and short of that, don't miss deadlines.
Well, sign up for the service, guys. Get the reminders.
Get your strategy put together.
It'd be nice if all these states just picked a day and they all did it, so we just all get it done, right? But no, they're all over the place.
Oh man, can you imagine the credit card statement on that one? That'd be a fun one. Should we jump over into some e-scouting stuff?
Let's do e-scouting.
This is the second greatest e-scouting podcast.
Yeah, the world's greatest e-scouting.
The
world's greatest e-scouting podcast, part 2.
I got a leading question into this topic.
Oh.
And then I know he's just been itching. He loves
my favorite subject.
So I wanted to ask you, you're kind of known as being the e-scouting guy, I would say.
You know what I always say? I love to talk about my favorite subject is something I know nothing about.
When I think, when I think e-scouting, you're pretty much the first name that comes up in my head.
Guys, seriously. I mean, I always like to say I'm the greatest because, my ego is not a problem. And it's always fun. But I think most people know I'm kind of joking. But, guys, I had to get good at it. I just told you, I'm 34 years coming from Missouri. Mm-hmm. If you're going to have a chance to kill an elk coming from the Midwest, and remember my other requirements, I don't have the same place twice. Mm-hmm. I've only hunted less than 5 times. I've been to the same place on any mule deer or elk hunt in 34 years. So if you're going to hunt new places, new states, every time, all the time, you don't have a choice but to get decent at it, right? Mm-hmm. I've never said I'm the best elk killer. I've never said, and I actually go out of my way to make sure that I say I'm not. I've killed a lot of great elk, but never any real giants. I always had this problem from Missouri. I just couldn't let them walk by.
Yeah.
From Missouri, you just can't let a walk by.
Yeah.
And so solo from Missouri, new places, hunting all kinds of different states. So I got good at it. Probably by necessity. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure I start with that.
Yeah, which is always the baseline, right? For why somebody gets good at something out of necessity or something that they're infatuated with. They just are passionate about it. So, so the question I wanted to ask you was, how much of your success would you relate back to time spent e-scouting versus in the field? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, exactly. We just talked about this. 95%.
You think 95%?
I did boots on the ground scouting for the first time in my life the last 2 years. And the only reason I did it was because we were in that unit for other reasons. Mm-hmm. We had to be there for some other things. And we thought, well, since we're here, let's go look. Scouting. But everywhere we looked, we saw giant bulls. They were right where they're supposed to be. But when the season came, they weren't there. They were in a different spot. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about this. I think now with deer in those basins and you're looking for potential deer quality and you're trying to target a particular buck, I think it's very doable. I'm not a great mule deer hunter, but I see a lot of success with scouting, physical scouting for deer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. With elk, I just don't see it. Now, there's a lot of value in seeing the terrain and getting used to it. But we were talking about this in the Cybertruck. To drive somewhere, spend a whole weekend, and drive back and maybe cover 15 or 20 miles if you really put the shoe leather on. If you took that same 20, 30 hours of time and you poured over your tools and technology, like the things I teach or I talk about. Now, when I say that doesn't mean open up OnX and just scroll around. Guys, I'm talking about using a system and a method to start breaking down these hunt areas and evaluating them, not just looking around. Mm-hmm. If you take that approach, I think you're miles ahead versus boots on the ground every time, all the time. Mm-hmm. And I'd wager that against anybody. Now, if you've hunted that area before, you've got history there, you've learned it, great. There's some value there. But if you're trying to develop a brand new spot in a state that's far away, now if it's right out your back door, if you live there, it's a different story. But I hunt, I try to, like right now I have 2 elk tags right now, and I think I'm going to get a third. Well, I know I'm going to get a third. So I'm going to have 3 elk tags in 3 different states. I'm going to hunt roughly 60, 70 days for elk. There's no way I can't go do boots on the ground in the summertime for that. Mm-hmm. My wife would lose her mind if I said, honey, I'm going to hunt 70 days this fall, but I need to go do a couple weeks of boots on the ground scouting.
Yeah.
In the summer. Now, if I somehow worked it into a family trip, which I've tried to pull, but my wife, she's been with me 20 years. She kind of knows the gig now. She can smell a scouting trip pretty quick now.
A mile away.
Yeah, I've always said you can, through e-scouting, you can find animals to kill. And it's very easy to actually figure out, okay, where an animal is going to live potentially. Here's how I'm going to, approach it, glass it. But animals should live in some of these general areas. You can find out where animals live e-scouting. But the thing you can't really do, and this is where you're kind of alluding to, the boots on the ground thing, you can't find a giant buck e-scouting or a giant bull. That's literally impossible.
Yeah.
Sure, there could be one there,
right?
But most likely they're going to be animals, and then potentially somewhere around there could be a 190-inch deer or a 340-inch bull. But you'll be able to find the animals. You can figure out where the elk are at, and then once you get in the hunt, you'll have to fine tune some things there. But boots on the ground is probably how you're going to find older age class animals. But e-scouting is going to get you that first step towards success if you just want to go hunting. You just want to see animals. You want to experience it and be on animals every single day to try to kill something. That's what e-scouting is really, really beneficial for. Until you've been there before, then you can kind of modify. And then, now if I'm, hunting similar areas or similar terrain, I kind of know where a big older age class animal might be. And so then now my strategy switch a little bit. I can kind of tailor it to maybe kill a bigger animal through e-scouting, but still it's boots on the ground is really how you kill those bigger animals and older.
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons I probably don't kill some giants, because I never go back. I literally move on to the next spot.
I think you make a good point in the distinction between mule deer and elk.
Yeah.
Because you can scout your ass off in the summer for elk, and you will see bulls, but killing that same bull once September rolls around is really hard.
Yeah.
They just move. They're so active. They're so big. And deer are different. Deer, especially that time frame of year, you can find a buck in August and you can hunt that buck pretty much in the same spot for the most part in September, maybe.
Especially archery. Yeah,
archery. Maybe through the first week in October.
Yeah.
But elk aren't that way. At least not in my experience.
No, I told you, we glassed them. We glassed a couple bulls that were pushing 400 inches, right? Mm-hmm. In July. They looked 400 in July, and they were still growing. And one of the bulls was very unique. He had a very unique third. Edwin had this big crazy nook, right? Well, we saw a picture of him. The guy killed him. It was 20 miles away from where we had glassed him in August, July.
Yeah.
He was in the same unit, but he was way further. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
And so, but guys, I don't want to get any hate. If you've got more time, there's no doubt that you should spend it. But I'm talking about planning 3 elk hunts for that many days in all new spots in random states. I just find it more effective to work my system. And, and I'm not saying I'm the best at it, but I can tell you one thing, that I have rarely gone into a place and not been into elk immediately.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they're raghorns, maybe there's only 10, maybe it's not a third of 300, as far as quantity or quality. But if I've just found that I evaluate all of my hunt areas for 12 criteria. If I stick to those 12 and I can find places that have 6 plus, 7, 8, even more, there's a very high chance of me running into elk in that spot, barring some other factors like a whole bunch of hunters, or maybe I made a mistake on a road that was open that I thought was closed. But I rarely make those mistakes anymore because I have such a process I work through. I spend a lot of time on motor vehicle analysis because, you guys have looked at it. The studies have shown over and over again, mule deer under pressure, they change their habits. They'll become nocturnal. They'll move into the timber. I've read a bunch of studies on mule deer, even though I haven't hunted a lot of mule deer with archery yet, but I have, and I'm getting better at it. I'm digging it. It's not my favorite, Brady, but it's fun.
It's gonna be though.
My son is my favorite son.
It's a big distinction
he's addicted
between the word fun and challenging. I would call it challenging.
But they'll work. They'll stay in the same core area, but they'll just be more trickier.
Yeah, how they utilize
elk? No, they relocate. When the pressure hits them, they make a move, and sometimes it's zip codes, right? And they have to be approached differently. And in my opinion. And so e-scouting for mule deer and hunting a pressured mule deer is different than hunting pressured elk, in my opinion.
Yeah, so you see a lot of feedback from people who are e-scouting and have taken obviously your courses and doing all that. What do you think one of the biggest mistakes you see hunters, that whatever mistakes they go through when they're e-scouting?
One of the biggest mistakes I see is they just don't spend the time to learn the tools they're using.
Say not doing it.
Not doing it, or they're laying in their bed, and this is what they think is e-scouting. Guys, I'm not trying to criticize you. I'm just saying, if you're laying in your bed next to your wife and you're doing this with your phone, you're scrolling, that's not e-scouting.
Yeah.
You know, that's just looking around. Now, I'm not saying I don't do that. I'm always kind of looking around, right? If I'm sitting at the airport, I'm like looking around. But when I say e-scouting, I mean, you got couple monitors. You're doing side-by-side comparison. You've got multiple apps running. You're looking at detailed Google Earth, and you're matching it up with what GOHUNT's, and you're making sure the roads are all connected the way they're supposed to be. Nothing's missing. You're labeling things right. You're analyzing the road networks. You're zooming in on the trails, trying to determine how much pressure those trails are getting. Is there livestock in there? Is there not livestock in there? Is it outfitter traffic? Is it recreational traffic? Or is it hunter traffic? That stuff can all be picked up with a few little techniques. And that's what I'm talking about when you do e-scouting, is really working through a process, not just observing. But one of the biggest things I see now is guys are becoming one-dimensional, meaning with the advent of these apps, they pick whatever app they like. They like GOHUNT, they like OnX, they like, well, nobody likes Basemap. But did I just say that out loud? Whatever they're using, whatever they're using, right?
Yep.
But that's all they use.
Yeah.
And I'm never an advocate for that, you know. And I know we talked about this break. He's just like, you use all the tools. GOHUNT's one of them. I mean, there's some things GOHUNT does I freaking love. And I've been teaching the last 3 weeks these elk and bear tours. And the terrain analysis tool is the best, hands down, tool for that purpose of any tool I've ever used. Now there's some other apps that are trying to do it, but they're not even close to what the GOHUNT clarity, the definition, the contrast. And but my point is, if you just use one tool and only one tool, you're kind of limiting yourself as well.
Yeah.
And you know, I say this all the time. That's what the average hunter does. An average hunter will use one tool. They'll do a little bit of work, and they'll call it good. Well, that's average. Well, that's a 6% success rate at best. That's not where I want to be.
No.
And if you don't want to be average, you got to start acting like you're not average. And average guys don't do that. They, you know, even Brett, you guys can say some of the best hunters I know, they spend far more time looking at Google or looking at their apps than they want to admit they do.
Yeah.
They're very dialed to using the tools to look at hunt areas. And they may be looking at it different than an average guy. You know, but the next thing I want to say real quick is, when I first started doing this, I thought everybody did it this way. I thought I'm not teaching anybody anything that they don't already know. Well, I was wrong. But what I was really wrong about was I thought I would only be doing Midwest brand new hunters. That's what they needed me for. I hardly get no new hunters. Literally none. Because I think they're intimidated by my stuff, to be honest, at first. You know what I'm getting? 3, 4, 5-year hunters that are not doing that great or not having that much luck. Or guys that have been going to elk camp for years with their grandfather and their dad, and they've been going the same spot, and they kill an elk every 3 years or 4 years, the whole group. And they just want to do something different, but they've never planned a hunt. They've always just gone where they've always gone.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to do it, or they don't even know what to do. I get tons of messages like that. So I'm kind of blown away from the guys that have been going to the same places, just that's where they've been going. Or guys that drew a tag or drew some tag and they're not ready. They don't even know what to do. But I originally thought it would be all new. I get some new, of course, but it's not the predominant. It's mainly they've tried it for a while and they just want to get better at it.
It's probably one of those situations where you don't know, you only know what you know.
That's
and
right.
if you don't even know what to ask or like what to look for, you probably just don't know. That's why you probably takes them a few years of struggling at it to even be like, okay, what are the questions I should be trying to answer here for myself?
Well, they hear things. They hear parts of things,
they
right?
hear parts and pieces.
Somebody says, like, how many people say, oh, you hunt the North Slopes for archery and for elk? What? Yeah, I like North Slopes.
Yeah.
But that's one of my 12 criteria. That's
Sure.
only one. And I'm not hunting an area just because it has North Slopes. It's got to have some other things, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that when I say one-dimensional, that's another aspect of it is they've heard a few things, and it kind of is true. It's not that they're not true, but there's no magic bullet, guys, when it comes to elk hunting. There's no magic formula, right? You got to do the work. And the work is a full scope analysis, in my opinion. It's not just, well, you just look for this one feature and you'll find out. No.
Yeah, you can't be casual.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work for you most times. Mm-hmm. And what a lot of people, when they're hunting in the West, don't realize as well, see what you guys think about this, but all the states that I've looked at is of all the land that elk can inhabit, meaning all the land that is good elk habitat, like primo elk habitat, elk only inhabit 10% of that land. So that's kind of shocking when you hear that number. So you're thinking you're just going to go out to Colorado, there's 300,000 elk, and there's just going to be an elk behind every tree. It's not going to be the case. Mm-hmm. They're very specific about where they want to be. Pressure has an effect, and without pressure, they're looking for desirable features. So to have a good hunt plan, you got to factor in desirable features plus pressure. Mm-hmm. If you're hunting an over-the-counter DIY public land, in my opinion. So a lot of guys just look for features. Well, maybe it has everything the elk want, but the elk aren't there because the pressure's too high or the predation, wolf predation, whatever the reason is. So the habitat is not the only factor, is what I'm trying to say. There's other factors.
For sure.
Yeah, the one thing that we talked about before, and you kind of touched on it again, like when we were in the Cybertruck the other week, chatting about things. I was like, it's funny.
Dude, I
crack up every time I say that. We were doing a little blog on the Cybertruck. But e-scouting just isn't the most sexiest thing. Like I do. People see me every single day. I post my sweaty hat. Because it's something easy to do. It's kind of fun, funny. People go to the gym. They post that they're working out. You shoot your bow, you shoot your rifle. Most people are like, okay, like I'm just going to post that on Instagram. I'm going to do this. Like you post all this stuff. There's archery clubs. Like you go and shoot with buddies all the time. Like, hey, let's go practice. Let's go to our guns. Let's go to the rifle range and go shoot. You work on all these other tools either together or by yourself, or you showcase it because you're proud of it. But no one does that e-scouting.
No.
I can't remember the last time I knew someone who's like, hey, Mark, let's come over to my house right now. Let's work on an e-scouting plan together for a hunt coming up. I've never heard of all my family members.
Hey, let's grab a six-pack.
All my friend group.
Let's grab a six-pack.
Yeah,
that's something you might do.
Yeah, like no one does it. And yeah, I understand. Like,
bring your monitors over, Brady. Let's do a jam session.
Yeah, let's do a jam session. Let's literally do it. But like everyone does in every other aspect though. It's like, hey, let's go to the gym together. We got a hunt coming up.
Yeah, let's go shoot our guns together.
Yeah. We got a hunt coming up. But no one says, hey, let's go e-scout together right now and sit in our room in the dark cave and e-scout, because it's not sexy. It's not something like people think about and do all the time. And I would bring up too, like how often are people just sitting there night after freaking night, wasting their life watching stupid shows on TV that they could be. Yes, you have to have a balance of like entertainment, fun, family. You have kids or whatever. You have to do these things, but like, how often do you e-scout compared to watch stupid shows on TV? I bet it's an outstanding number of your actual shows you watch and like waste time on Instagram just scrolling, liking people's stuff when you could be e-scouting. Another thing I hate too, I'm gonna get a little rant here for a second.
I like it.
Is we have these stupid cell phones in our hands always, and sure they have maps on it. Sure I have 3D. Sure I can e-scout all the time. But we're talking about the systematic approach that you always talk about.
You can't e-scout on a phone.
You cannot e-scout on a phone to the level of success that you. Sure you can do casual, like you said. I'll pick it up in the evening. I'll look over, zoom in. Maybe I'll drop a waypoint there. But it's easier on a computer or an iPad or something bigger, or the double monitor, or I'll cast it to my 75-inch TV I have at home, and I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I can see everything in really good detail. People need to do more of that stuff. We need to be talking about like we need to have an e-scouting club. We're going to start that together.
I'm starting to change it, Ray, because every once in a while somebody will take a picture of themselves on their computer doing stuff and post and tag me, right?
Yeah,
so I'm like,
I get that every now and then. I got one this
making
weekend.
e-scouting sexy again. I mean, people are starting to do it.
Yeah.
They're kind of proud of that they got their, like I just did this thing where the triple monitor is my new holy grail, right?
Yeah.
I've tried 4, I've tried 6, I've tried 2.
I want a mega desk. I want a double stacked up desk.
The 32 inches is the perfect. 3, now if you can afford it, 3 curved 32.
I was going to say, if you use the curved ones, curved monitors are the best.
That's what I just got. Yeah. Well, I haven't got them. I just ordered them. But I'm running 4 right now, but I'm switching to the 3 curved with my laptop, so it'll be 4. But I used to run a 6 monitor system. That was giving me like OCD. It was causing me to have like, like when a flashing light, the strobe, like almost having me stroke out. Just overload, way too much. That was a little overkill. 4 was fine, but 3 is the landscape view. I think is the winner. But I think the problem is, Brady, when you were saying just get on there and see, a lot of people hear you, but they don't know where to start. They're like, okay, I got this map. What am I looking for?
That was going to be my next question. Is
I'm looking at this topo. Should I be looking at topo? Should I be looking at aerial photo? Mark says use multiple tools. Well, when should I use Google Earth Pro? When should I use GOHUNT? When should I use Gaia? When should I use CalTopo? When should I use NoTel? When should I use Sentinel Weekly Landsat satellite imagery?
Sentinel Weekly satellite.
All the stuff. When do I use those? How do I fit those in?
Yeah.
Well, that's the sauce, right? That's what I'm telling you guys is like, just one of those ain't going to get the job done.
No.
But it's a combination of all of that. And so up until just a few years ago, and I got to give people credit. And I mean, Randy Newberg was really one of the first ones that said, man, e-scouting is like the jam. And, he was kind of the first pioneer, at least online, of putting out a little bit of e-scouting, quote, content, even though a lot of people were probably doing e-scouting. And, I watched everything he put out, and I just felt like he did such a great job. But I wanted to go one step further. I wanted to go deeper into the weeds. I'm a weeds guy. And I want to know everything about everything. I don't want people to tell me like, okay, fires are good for elk. Fires, historical fire burns are good for elk. Great. Okay. Why? What kind of edge? What kind of burn? When did they start? When did they get put out? How old are they before they're desirable? How old can they get before they become less desirable? How long until the trees start to fall? What about double burns? So once it burns and hits the ground and it reburns, that's money. How can I find double burns? Well, sorry guys, but you can't do it with any app. I'm sorry. Because all the apps are 10, 12-year-old. They only go back 10, 12 years. Rarely does a burn happen and then a timber hit the ground and then catch on fire again in 12 years, right? It usually takes like 25 or 30 years. So that's where you have to use a different tool. No problem, just use a different tool. So for bears, particularly for bears, I love double burns. I look for those. You know what I'm saying? Places that have burned twice in 25 years.
Yeah.
And I have a whole bunch of theories on those. But the point I'm trying to make here is that, a lot of people they kind of know they want to do it. They just don't know where to start. They don't know kind of what they're looking for or even to go about how to break it down. How do I just keep a journal? How do I keep it organized? What kind of, do I use colors? Do I use certain icons? All the things. And sometimes I think we take it for granted because we just do it all the time and we do it and it just becomes so second nature that when I talk to people that aren't doing it, I'm like, okay, I got to back up a little bit here. Yeah. I start saying custom markups and everybody's looking at me like, what do you mean custom mark? What's that mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's e-scouting lingo. That's just, you should know that, right? So I think it's more of educating people, and that's what I hope in this podcast and the ones like we do is educating them on the process, not just that they need to be doing more e-scouting. It's like everybody says, you need to go to the gym. You need to get fitter. Yeah, okay, but when I get to the gym, what do I need to do?
What do you got to do? Exactly. That's why you need a coach like yourself.
Just going to the gym. Now I can't even look at a barbell without getting big. And
I've never looked at a barbell.
Like if I walk by the gym door, I'm 15 pounds heavier. That's not a good thing. But I think there's some paralysis, right, to get started. And I'm not trying to stereotype, but hunters are not known for being the most technologically savvy group on planet Earth either.
That's very true.
They're just not, as a population. And you've got to change that a little bit. This is not rocket science. With a little bit of work, a little bit of YouTube, a few podcasts, you can get going. You don't have to buy any courses. I mean, I'd love for you to buy them. You don't have to. This stuff's all available. You can get it, but you got to put it all together.
Yeah.
So, that's my thoughts on that. So, kind of long-winded, but.
Where do you get started? We'll let you get a drink, but what's your first step?
It's funny you said that.
And I know that, like, if we dive into multiple species, you'll get multiple answers because you might start different places for different species. Maybe not. I don't know. But we'll take elk, for example.
Okay, so for me, for elk, you guys can chime in here. Things are changing, though, with these wolves, predation, the sheer numbers of people, the sexiness of going into the backcountry. People are seeing people deeper than they've ever seen them before, right? I've just been hearing that over and over again. I hiked 9 miles, I ran into 10 dudes, right? That used to not be the case. And but even so, one of the first things that if I'm looking at a hunt area, the first things I want to know is where all the pressure is. I want to know where I mark every trailhead. I trace every road. I trace the roads, guys. So I use applications that do snap too. Like Caltopo does it. And anyway, I snap all the roads, meaning trace all the roads in the hunt area so I can see them in red for several reasons. But you can visually see those roads, and then I drop a pin on every single access point, every dead end, every campground, every trailhead, every place that I feel like is going to be a popular, not every,
a jump off point.
Any jump off point that is obvious to me. Trailheads are obviously one.
Yeah.
If you drop I use a color gray. I'm just going to tell you. So the gray speaks to me. When I start to see all these gray pins, I can see how they work with that hunt area. Then I start to visualize where here's a little pocket here. Here's a little, and I start looking at those pockets that are not maybe however far it needs to be. So guys, you can kill elk a mile from the road. You can kill elk 2 miles from the road. You can kill whatever miles from the road. I personally would rather hunt less elk and see less people. That's my nature. That's one of the reasons I have llamas. But if your limit is 3 miles with your backpack, then that's what you're working with. There's plenty of elk in that range. You just got to, what is the best 3 mile distance from those spots? And another thing I do is I put a radius. So I draw a circle on every one of those. So let's say 3 miles.
Yeah.
I put a 3 mile radius around every trailhead, every access point. Guys, just doing that, you automatically start to see the little holes. Well, then that doesn't tell you where the elk are. That just gives you a place to start looking. Then I start looking for the elk finding features that I look for in those more isolated areas.
But you start with pressure.
One of the first thing is pressure, because remember I told you elk, they do not like pressure. They respond to pressure. Now, remember what I said about pressure too is if I'm in a high pressure area, I immediately start looking for areas that are off trail.
Yep.
Right? The more roads, the more access, the more off trail I want to be. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I feel like sometimes it's easier to find elk in high pressure areas than in the wilderness. Everybody's like, Mark, how's that possible? Well, let me tell you. If you go to Oregon, there's roads everywhere.
No, that makes total sense.
You start tracing those roads, guys, and you start doing this process, I'm telling you, it starts jumping out where they're going to be.
Yeah.
You go into the Metcalf Wilderness area of Montana, those elk could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, they could be in hundreds of square miles.
Yeah.
So it's almost easier, guys. I know it's frustrating. It seems frustrating. But if you work the process, it's actually sometimes easier to pinpoint where they might be when there's a lot of pressure than when there's no pressure.
In a situation like that, you may be less concerned with pressure and more concerned with features that hold elk.
Right, exactly. Because,
But yeah, that makes total sense.
You agree or don't agree
Oh,
with
I
that?
agree. I agree completely.
So that's one of the first steps I do.
I want to jump on. I want to add things when I hear you saying things. Just what I don't have to repeat later on. So like I do that very similar thing, but another thing I do too, which is very similar to what you're doing, is proximity to towns, even if it's a small town or bigger city, because you can start doing the same thing. Okay, this is mainly comes into play with people who on the late season hunts, they don't have the TP, they can't backpack out in there, so they're gonna get a hotel, an Airbnb, they're gonna travel every single day. Well, that limiting factor a lot of times seems to be that hour, maybe an hour and a half in the morning, because okay, if you're gonna have to wake up super early and you have an hour drive back up in the mountains every day, that's gonna start wearing a toll on you. So you want to be kind of close, so you can start to figure out, okay, where are some of these bigger places people might be staying on some of these late season hunts, and eventually you start doing the same thing. You circle all those, draw little paths, you draw little access points. Eventually you start to see places that like don't quite have towns close by, and so that'd be like, oh, this would be 2 hours to drive every single day from there to somewhere else. So you're like, most likely this person does not have a camper. I mean, they're getting more prevalent, but like it's gonna be a little harder for people to get to this little corner of the unit, and so eventually you can start to paint a picture like these are places where less people are going to be because there's not a town proximity. When it's 5-10 degrees out during November, there's gonna be less people potentially hunting that side.
Same thing. You're breaking it down by pressure, but you're going a little bit. You're just taking it one layer out. And remember what I said about tracing the roads? That's one of the things that starts to show up is where all these roads come from, right? And when you just look at a map without any markup on it, it's hard, even for the best. I mean, even for a guy like me, that's the best.
I'll second that.
Yeah, it's hard to look at the map and find these less pressured spots just visual. And when you drop a gray pin, all these gray pins, when you got all the roads in red that you can drive on, you've got a 3-mile circle around all of them. It just, boom.
You're starting to create a spider web approach.
It starts to just speak to you. Remember we said, if you open up your screen and it's not speaking to you, then you need to make some changes to your e-scouting. If you open up your screen and it's all orange GOHUNT default waypoint, I mean, I love the orange default, don't get me wrong, but
that means nothing.
It means 0 to you. You got to click on that. Say, how many times have you had a waypoint on your thing? Yeah, I do it too. Like
I did it this
what
morning.
Was I thinking? What was I thinking with that?
Oh, this is the classic. I was driving down here this morning and I pulled open my GOHUNT map and I was looking at the elk unit that I have a tag for this year. And I've hunted it one time before, and then my kid's got a tag. His hunt starts the day after mine. And I'm like looking at it, and it's just a blob of orange icons. And I'm like going through, and I have no notes. I'm clicking on the icon, and I'm being like, oh yeah, I see the date and the time. I'm thinking
that doesn't mean anything.
He needs chastised.
Yeah, but I'm thinking a lot. I'm lucky in that I have a pretty decent memory, and I can recall like, okay, yeah, I remember the.
You got more than that. You got so. This is the thing. You're just like Ryan. Ryan Lambert's the same way. You've got so much knowledge in your head, right, that you take it for granted.
Yeah.
I mean, what day do you wake up and not talk elk hunting? Never.
I don't remember the last.
You guys work at GOHUNT.
Yeah.
You never go to lunch. You never sit down for more than 5 minutes without something about tags, draw. In Missouri, 0.
Right.
I'd go to the bar, have a beer. It was whitetail. Where you going? What permission you got? What farms you got? What? No elk. So we're so lucky to be immersed in this that I think we take for granted this osmotic elk knowledge we get every day.
I am proving your point though, because I did this morning just think, man, I sure wish I'd have taken just a minute,
2 minutes,
2 minutes to just label these and have some sort of icon system so that I know. It's like when you speak to me when you said if you open up your maps and it's not speaking to you, then you need some work. Like that speaks to me because I should be able to open my map up and very quickly visually I should have done the work enough to the point where I'm looking at something and it's speaking to me and I'm starting to see things quickly versus really having to dig.
Yeah. And then you're also too, like I'm just thinking that I'm like, I really hope I never draw a unit that you've hunted before and you're trying to help me out because you can't, in this situation right now, you can't help me because he's going to relearn it. So he's going to be wasting that time where my waypoints are, I have the same colors, everything. I have in my notes on my folder what all the colors mean. So if I wanted to share, like,
that's why
I'm pretty personal, so I don't really share very often.
So
but like,
it's a one-way street.
If I was going to help him out, maybe
he's only a taker. He's not a giver.
Yeah, this is a camp. This is what I see.
More like Lambert's than I thought. That's exactly the way Lambert's operates. He's a taker, not a giver.
Yeah, and even when you were talking earlier, I know we talk again all the time, but like the color thing too. Like if the colors don't speak to you, like you said red, I'm like, oh, I'm just thinking in my head, like I'm colorblind. There's no way I could see those red roads.
Again, you got to pick a different color.
I got to pick a different color.
I had a guy in my class, same thing. I'm like, guys, you're not hearing me. I don't care what colors you use.
Yeah, pick what works for you.
Something, and don't be random about it.
Write it down.
Have a method to it.
Yeah.
I literally, in every little folder for all my hunts, it literally says, here's what blue means, here's what yellow means, here's what, if I'm on the hunt, it might mean something else. So I like have them different colors, but just like I have it written down everywhere so I know I can constantly reference it. And then if I do share it, like this last year, my brother drew a really phenomenal elk tag and I gave him everything. And he instantly had a, whatever you want to call it, a blue book, an explanation for exactly what everything meant. So he knew what he was looking at all the time. And so I was like, oh, here's all these glassing ones. Why are these ones blue and why are these other ones yellow? And I'm like, well, the ones that are colored a certain way, those are the ones from in the field. Those are the ones I've confirmed are actually really, really good. The other ones are like, I'd like to go check them out in the field.
That's scouting work.
Yeah, I haven't been there yet, but I think they might be good. But these other ones, I know we can glass from there, and I know you can see a lot of country, and I know there's elk because look at the notes. It says how many elk I've seen.
So what Brady's talking about, let's go one little bit further with that, okay? So this is the way I do it. Again, now I did learn one of the things from you. I say this all the time because I do not like to steal things unless I give you credit. So our last podcast, it came up, and I've started using that since then. So when I'm on the hunt, every waypoint I drop is yellow. I don't use yellow for anything else except on. Now I use different icons, obviously for different things, but I always use yellow. Okay, but now I'm starting to use black for any animal sightings. Now you said kills, but I do it for.
I do black for kills.
I do it for all
mine are
animals.
light blue for animal sightings.
Okay, there you go.
So again, it's using whatever
Same
color
thing,
works.
whatever. But I use all black because now think about it, you get home, or even when you're on the hunt, you've got all your e-scouting waypoints, which are mine are in red, which I'm going to say that, but I recommend not doing red. But because it's a default color in other apps, and Gaia and Onyx is red, GOHUNT is orange, so you don't want to use the default color.
Yeah.
That was a mistake. I just started doing it. So red, purple, green are my 3 priority colors, right? So those, when I see those 3 colors, I know that's all e-scouting work. So when I start to see my screen, I can see where all these red, purple, green mixes in with the yellow. I start to see, whoa, my e-scouting was money. I got these benches all marked in purple, and that's right where these black pins are. And it just starts to be like, you're learning from your work, and you become better. You don't just find elk. You became better at finding elk. So the next time you're going to be applying, well, look at that bench. What was unique about that bench? I got 2 black pins right there. So yellow for in the field, black for the black really was a game changer, because when you can start to see how the animal sightings start to show up with your pins, that even really starts speaking to you. Even on the hunt guy, I can't tell you how many times I've been laying in my tent and I'm kind of looking at my maps. And I start to see this black pin. I'm like, look at this trend. I've got 5 black pins right here in this area. But if I would have not marked them, they'd have been just red default. I don't know if I would have put it together. That I actually saw 5 elk in the same general area over the course of 14 days, but didn't really realize it, right? Because I mark all sightings. If I glass a herd of elk, what I do is I glass them. I see them. There's 8. I'll do my GOHUNT rangefinder, drop a pin, type a note. 8 elk, 1 nice 6x6 bull, boom. So when I hit that pin, I know exactly what I'm dealing with.
And the thing of that too, like, people thinking about listening to this right now be like, that takes too long. I don't have time to do that. It takes literally half a second to, all the apps do it different. You can tap and hold. You can just tap the plus thing, drop a waypoint really quickly, and mark it instantly when you're there. So that way, like when you go back to camp, like, oh, where was that bull again? Was it that area? Then you're going to mark it, and then you want to know exactly the elevation, because like we probably get to eventually, like when you start doing analysis on all the animals you've seen in the field. And it's like, sure, you might say, oh, I don't need all those extra waypoints on the animals, but like you're out there to collect work. You're collecting data on the hunt for future hunts,
so
or
valuable.
even learning on the hunt or where the animals are, like you're talking about. You have to be marking every single animal you see.
Especially
it will
for
benefit
newer
you.
intermediate hunters.
Even when I'm deer hunting, if I see elk, I'm marking the elk, because who knows if I might ever come back here, or I might have a buddy who might hunt. They're like, hey, I actually saw a bunch of elk here. You know, if you're on the hunt, you see some deer, can you go mark them for me as well? Like you can trade back and forth then. Like mark everything you see.
It starts to, the groupings, I call it the cluster effect. In my course, I talk about this cluster effect. You'll see it with, I do a couple of different things. When I start seeing a clusters of red waypoints, those are probably high priority for me. And I see a little corner of the hunt area that's got 10 red waypoints. I'm like, well, I got to go there. It's all red. Something about this area has got me interested, right?
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, when I get on the field, there's all these black ones that match up to it. You see it over and over again. And so one of the things I will say, now a lot of times I'll drop a default while I'm on the hunt. I'm moving, I'm going, I'll just drop it. When I get back to camp, when you're laying in your tent doing nothing, clean up your waypoints. Change the colors, give it a better name. You know, spend the time at night. Don't necessarily do it if you're in the heat of the moment. I'm not saying stop on the bull's screaming. I mean,
You're not gonna be marking
dude, come on,
waypoints.
they got to be
Just
realistic.
give me a
Exactly.
minute.
Hold on, buddy. I gotta get my markups.
Let me drop this.
But when you get back home, once fresh in get back to your tent, clean it up every night.
Exactly.
And what you start, it gives you a freedom too, Trail. You were talking about this. Like every time I see a default waypoint on my screen, I know I can get rid of it.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the point now. I've converted so much of my data that I can. When I see a default, I know I can. It was just something I dropped as it means nothing to me. So if it comes time for me to, I do a lot of importing, exporting, right? I teach a lot of it, how to move data around the different applications and stuff. So you end up with some random default. So I don't worry about that, because I know anything I see default, I can just delete without worrying about it being something I want.
And the beauty of that too is, like right now, a lot of people, you know, obviously we don't have tags in our pockets quite yet. You know, sooner people have some tags in their pocket. But what's the best thing to do right when
Mark's
hunting
got
season
2.
ends?
I got 2. How many do you have?
I have 2.
Oh, there you go. See, you got tags.
we got tags. Yeah, we got some tags. But like, hunting season ends in the fall. Do you have a chunk of time before next season starts? This is what I call like the spring waypoint cleanup period.
Yeah, clean that mess up.
Like that's when I will say the phone is kind of handy. When I'm sitting in bed at night and I see a GOHUNT orange one, like I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna click on like what was that exam? Can I clean it up? Can I modify? Like,
do I need to change or delete it?
Yeah, it's like this is when you can go through, and you should do it after you get back from a hunt, so it's fresh in your mind. But go through and clean up your waypoints, add the notes you need to do, whatever you need to do to it to make it more sense to you. But like you have the time now to do it before like you're stressing out. Like 5 days before the hunt starts, what was that waypoint again? Why did I mark that one? Back last year in October. I don't know what it means. I need to know right now. Like, do some cleanup.
Yeah. So guys, like, just going through that on your phone, do you know how much knowledge you're going to gain? Mm-hmm. Just clicking on a waypoint, seeing. You don't realize how much historical knowledge you're just absorbing when you're working through your waypoints. Why did I do this? Why did I do that? Just the process of cleaning up your waypoints is going to make you a better elk hunter.
Yeah, because you're processing what you saw.
So I have right at the 5,000 waypoint mark on my primary system. So I'm getting to the point where I've got so many points that now some of them are education, some of them not. But we just had this class. We looked up on my apps. I had 200 hunt areas and 5,000 waypoints. So what I've started adopting about 6-7 years ago was hunt areas. What I mean by that is you've got these waypoints all over around, right? Well, what you're going to start seeing is as you start hunting areas that are closer to other areas, it's hard to tell where one, quote, hunt area ends and the other one kind of picks up. Mm-hmm. So what I've started doing is using the area tool. I don't use the area tool for very many things, but I use it for this. So if I've got a potential area that I'm evaluating, let me give you an example. I'm going to a brand new place in Colorado, hopefully. I'm cashing my points. I've never been in this unit. I've never even pulled it up on my computer yet, but I'm getting ready to. When I start breaking it down, I'm going to start dropping, as I start looking at potential hunt areas, excuse me, I will put a polygon around, I will border that area with an area. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So when I do it, here's how I do it. I trace the area to encompass where I think I can reach with my llamas, reasonable distances, all the things, whatever fits your reality, right? Whatever fits your scenario. I drop it, but the key is the naming. I've learned what I do is I name it by a geographic feature that's dominant in that area, like Storm Peak dash elk.
I know.
So I know it's got the species and the name. So when I see that hunt area name, I know it's an elk, and I know and I can search it by geographic. So you can search waypoints. A lot of people don't realize all the systems allow you to search. So once you get a bunch in there, you're like, hey, where's that storm one at? You type storm, boom, you got it. Yeah. But if you just say hunt area 1, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. Just like the waypoints, give it some meaning. So give it a name that's a geography feature in that area, whatever it is, and then dash elk. And then this is the key, is if it's in development, meaning I'm in early stages, I'm just looking at it. I always put a question mark. So I know when I see that, I'm like, okay, this is not fleshed out. It's definitely in development. Then once I feel like it's viable, meaning it's got potential, then I switch it to asterisk. The 1 asterisk is I'm interested. 2 is I'm really interested. And 3 is I got to get there some point. So I can look at the name of my hunt area and know where I left it, right? And then I color code the hunt areas. So my elk are purple, my deer are blue, and my bears are yellow. So when I look at my map, I can see bear areas, how they mix. I don't even got to look at the name, and I can tell it's an elk area. Mm-hmm. But if you did the name sequence and the color, the whole theme of this thing is, does it speak to you, right?
Yep.
Your map is starting to speak to you. Because when you start getting the sea of pins, even if they're colorized, it's hard to start visualizing where one begins and one ends. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I have found that to be so incredibly useful. That's probably worth listening to this podcast for right now. That tip right there has changed, and that's only been about 10 years I've been doing that. And but I've gone back now to areas that I hunted before, and I've updated it. Mm-hmm. So I give it a 1, 2, 3 priority, and I use the question mark. And then I always put the name of species in, and I give it some geographic name. And then I use the color. I missed this. And one of the reasons I like the areas is like in GOHUNT. You can go in and say, hide all areas. So you know how the areas have a transparency kind of look to them. Like you don't want it on when you're doing your e-scouting. So you just turn off all your areas when you're working. But when you want to see your areas, you turn all your areas back on. It's hard to turn off and on individual waypoints. But if you reserve the area tool for kind of very specific purposes like hunt areas, then you can just turn them on and off. So it doesn't block your view. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one tip that I've used for just not even that long.
You're always full of great tips.
Well, I don't know about that.
No,
See,
you
I'm
are.
a simple-minded guy. It's got to be simple for me.
Not really.
It's got to speak to me, right?
I like the fact that you said that you start with hunting pressure.
That's job one for elk, for me.
And I agree with you. What's job two?
So I do a lot of drone flying over. So I teach this in almost all my courses, and guys do not do this enough. In Google Earth, there's a capability. It's very, very obscure.
You don't mean real drones.
Yeah, well, this is almost as good.
Sure.
You probably used it before. You can draw the path anywhere you want. And then the key is getting the settings right in Google Earth, because the settings that Google, I know it's hard to believe, but Google Earth wasn't built for hunters. I mean,
seems like it was.
Yeah, it seems like it should be, right? But it wasn't. And, but it's got the best aerial imagery of any source. But you can't take it in the field. It's strictly a pre-hunt thing. So you got GOHUNT on one screen and you got Google Earth on the other, all the time, every time. Guys, that's the way I run it. I have apps. I cycle apps, but I never cycle the Google Earth page. It's that important to me because I want to be able to use that historical imagery. I want to be able to use that high quality imagery, and I want to look at route. They got the best route analysis. They have the best drone tools. They have best view shed tools. They've got some of them, but you can't take it in the field. So it's strictly e-scouting.
Sure.
Then you whatever you do on your Google Earth, you move it over to your GOHUNT.
Yeah.
You're working in GOHUNT, but you're looking in Google Earth. Does that make sense? And you're doing that. You're learning how to cut and paste the latitude, longitude. I couldn't believe in Texas, I had like 40 people in the class. Half of them didn't know about cutting, pasting, latitude, longitude.
Really?
Dude, it was like their eyes just went like, it was like an aha moment. They're like, are you kidding me? I've been doing this. I'm trying to find it. They're scrolling around trying to find it.
What?
Yes. Half of them did not know about the cut paste. So if you're paying attention, guys, you go to GOHUNT, you click anywhere and you just select the latitude, longitude, just select it, copy it, jump over to Google Earth and paste it. And boom, now your screens match.
You're in the same spot.
So anyway.
So you're drone flying the areas that you've kind of isolated and you found from looking at hunting pressure. So you did that step.
Just draw a random path in between all the points, right?
Okay.
And then you will set. I'm going to go through this real quick. You're going to go to Google Earth. You're going to go to preferences. You're going to go to touring. You're going to set your camera angle at 65 to 70. You're going to set your elevation at about 1,500 meters up. You're going to set your speed to about 500 in your preferences. Then you're going to draw a path, and down in the bottom corner, there's no function for this. There's no menu item for this, guys. There's nothing. It's a little tiny at the bottom, 3-dot little thing. It's called a play the tour. They call it a tour. You hit that button, and the thing resets itself. Google Earth resets itself to the settings we just said, and you're flying along that line at that, looking out, kind of out front and down, that 1,500 feet up. And I just sat back and I just gotta absorb the terrain and see where the edge habitats are. I see where the north slopes look like. I see bench areas and ridge feet, how the ridges connect. And guys, I run those over and over and over. And when I arrive at the trailhead, with all the work, and this is only the tip of the iceberg, but when you do all this work, guys, and you arrive at the trailhead, I swear, you're going to feel like you've been there before. You're going to feel like, man, I'm ready to go. I'm armed. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know exactly where I'm going to go. I know exactly how long it's going to take me to get there. I know exactly what trails. I've got them all marked. I know the distances. I know the estimated travel times. I got it all. That is such a powerful feeling versus pulling up the trail and saying, all right, which way do you think we should go?
I was going to say, conversely, one of the worst feelings in the world is showing up to an area and being like, this looks nothing like I thought it would look like.
Because you didn't spend enough time.
Yeah.
And you're still going to get surprised sometimes, right?
Yeah, inevitably. But, I mean, by and large, I've definitely had moments where I thought, man, this looks nothing like I thought it was going to look like. Which is a terrible feeling. It's really intimidating, right? It's on the opposite side of it, like you're saying, I can imagine it would give you a massive jolt of confidence.
That's right. Confidence. That's a better word. That's a better word. Also, you got backup plans, right? Using my method. So you get there, and maybe there's 20 trucks there. We were talking about there's 20 trucks there, and you're like, you just don't feel good about it. You're not worried. You're not even stressed for 1 minute.
I don't care when I see people.
Because plan B is right there.
Yeah, on your map.
And it's 3 miles down the road. You're like, okay, hey, my drive time is 18 minutes. I can be there. I'm going to be at the camp same time. Because you already got that worked out.
Yep.
But what you don't want is be on the side of the road like Ty Stubblefield, and you're trying to get cell service, and you're trying to download the map for. You want to end a hunt early. You want to go home early. Run out of options.
Yeah, run out of options.
How many people leave when they feel like they don't have any options left? Right? They're like,
you want to know everything about.
I only got 3 days left on the hunt.
It's probably the number one reason. I don't know where to go.
If I kill an elk now, they start telling themselves I can't get it out, or whatever the reasons are, right? And all of a sudden they find themselves driving home early.
Yeah.
It's happened to all. It's happened to me, guys.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
me
not going to
too.
sit here and lie to you.
For
It's
sure.
happened to every hunter at some point.
For sure.
But it rarely happens to me now because I have so many options.
Yeah.
I have more options I can even get to.
Right.
It's so the level of confidence, that's a good word for it, but what I'm really trying to get, it gives you an empowerment, such an empowerment, because when you're on a hunt, guys, unless you are a professional hunter, you're going to get tired. You're going to be dehydrated. You're going to be, your wife's missing you. Your kids are missing you. They're not used to you being gone. My wife's used to it. I think my wife likes me being gone more at home, so it works good for me. But for most of guys, that's not the case. So you got all these factors, right? You need, all it's going to take for you to leave that hunt early is one little negative, and you got a million reasons to quit.
Yep, you do.
But when you can eliminate that reason to quit, I cannot tell you how many times I've been laying in my tent. I haven't seen an elk in a few days. I'm like, oh, just frustrated. I've got my phone with all my colors. I'm like, well, I haven't even been. I have 3 reds right here. I haven't even been there yet. And
Gets you excited all over
now
again.
I go to bed. I know what I'm doing in the morning, right? I'm like, I got a plan. I got. Oh, there's a glassing spot right there. I can get to there. Okay, I got a route. It's going to take me 2 hours. So I need to get up at 4 o'clock to be able to get there by 6. I know exactly what I got to do. Now I'm ready to go. Otherwise, you guys have been there. You're like, it's raining a little. It's cold. Anything.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's no elk here. I've been everywhere.
Yep.
You haven't been everywhere. You think you've been everywhere. And, but just having those options, having options keeps you in the game. The moment you don't have options, man, it's easy to pull the plug.
And it's like you were saying, like trying to sit there, stick your phone out the truck, trying to download a map. It's like, that's why you just download a giant area. Like not just your unit and units next door. If you can bounce around in different units, download it all before you go. You never know. And that's why you look at all of them too and e-scout every single one of them.
That brings up a good point. You know, guys, we're getting in the weeds here. This is good stuff. So I want to ask you guys what you guys think. This is what I've started doing. I've had so many issues with offline maps on every tool. Because I think just the way I use it and the sheer volume and this, I wipe my data clean every year. Even areas I'm going to again, I re-download them. It seems to be the performance issues just seem to be better. So what I'm saying is, guys, keep your memory on your phone really optimized. Well, a lot of people don't realize this. Once your phone, I'm not talking about Android. I don't know about Android, but an iPhone. Once your phone gets 80% full, the system starts allocating memory to preserve system functions. And that's when you can really start having problems. And most people don't even know it because it doesn't give you a warning that it's 80%.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So yeah, I've read a couple reports on this. So take photos, whatever you got to do to keep your phone below 80%. And maps can take up a lot of space.
Giant amount of space.
So delete all your maps. Guys, it doesn't take long anymore with high-speed internet. Get good, clean maps of all your hunt areas. Redo them. Don't rely on stuff you've had sitting there. And for gosh sakes, put your phone in airplane mode. Get it offline. Zoom in. Make sure everything's working.
Yep.
You want to always test it. On my hunt plan template that I give out in my course, there's a line on there that says, when I tested all the apps I'm taking, when I tested them and when I made sure the maps are working. So I know that I did test it. Because I've made mistakes. I downloaded the wrong area, or I thought it downloaded.
Yeah,
and
part of the download pause and
got
went to something else.
stopped, or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
And dude, that's a hunt killer.
Yeah, I do that same thing. I'm making an effort to, every time I get back from a hunt, I delete maps. I start fresh again. And I go to one step further where I even delete the box outlines of my previous ones. Even though I might know I might go there next year or whatever. Like, sure, if I'm going to go back again in 3 weeks, I probably won't do that. Or, if the hunt, I can continue to hunt.
Sure.
I'll keep them there, but like I start fresh again. I delete it, and I delete it from the other area where I optimize everything. I delete.
Don't you find it just works better? It's more reliable that way.
And like, so even though I trust it.
Maybe it's a psychological thing. I just
I just want to start fresh again. You want to ensure that process is set up and you've done it that way. You test I'll test it offline right away, like you're saying, when I do the fresh download. But if I keep it on there, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do it or whatever. It's like, just delete it, start fresh.
Well, the memory thing, when I started reading about this 80% memory thing, I started realizing I've been dangerously close a bunch, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys, now that we got the all-in phones, we're all filming 4K, and our phones are just filling up, and all of a sudden everything's not working. Mm-hmm. And because you've got a million hunt areas. Oh, wait, that's the other thing I realized. Like, a lot of the apps have maxes. I think GoHunt even has a max of a certain number. You guys just, the best thing to do is just wipe that thing. Only download the areas that you need. Mm-hmm. Like I recommend on a 10-day hunt, I usually say you need to have 4 hunt areas minimum. Well, you got 4 blocks. You're not going to work through 4 blocks on a 10-day hunt. You're just not. Yeah. I mean, it would be a catastrophic situation. But that now you got 4 blocks. That's what you need.
But you don't need your Wisconsin
you don't need your Missouri whitetail hunt, right?
You can delete that. Like, you're not going back to this year. Like, whatever.
I got guys like, oh, I downloaded that. I got it. I'm like, from 4 years ago, you still got that. I'm like, well, that's a problem.
And it's taking up space.
It's taking up space, and it might be updated. It might need to be updated. Mm-hmm. Now, usually they auto-update, but guys, it's technology.
I even get scared that the wires will cross and everything. If I'm like, do app updates, like just delete it and re-download it.
We've learned our lesson. Guys, I've been doing this for a long time. I've learned my lesson the hard way plenty of times with not just one app, all the app. It's technology. You've got so many variables. Here's the thing. Same with these guys. To be a successful elk hunter, you have to take care of business with the things that you can. Because there's so many things that are not in our control when it comes to killing elk, right? Mm-hmm. The elk, they don't always commit suicide, right? You have to take care of the things that you can control. And these are things you can control. Mm-hmm. You should never have an offline map problem. You should never have a waypoint or a markup problem. You should never be lacking in hunt options. If you can take care of those things, then all the unknowns just become easier to tackle.
Yeah.
But when you start having problems with things that you can't handle, and then you couple that with things that you can't, it's a mess. Mm-hmm. That's when you go home early. That's when whatever your sex, that makes you're now an average elk hunter.
Yeah.
And if you want to be, the sure way to be an average elk hunter is to keep acting like an average elk hunter.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I always
say that all the time. It's true.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about here, guys, this ain't average. All the custom markup colors, all taking the time to do this, taking the time to do the zones of pressure. I call it zones of pressure, mm-hmm. that first step, right? One of the first steps. Doing these drone flies. Everybody's like, I don't need that. You don't need it. Everybody says, well, it's good enough. I got that a lot this last weekend. Everybody's like, well, my app is good enough. I'm like, yeah, it is. That's average.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good enough is going to get you 6%.
Yeah.
Do you want to kill an elk every 15 years? I don't.
Yeah. When people always say, like, oh, I'll just modify it when I'm in the field. I'll just deal with it then. It's like,
you can't, but that's good enough. Mm-hmm. Guys, good enough does not consistently kill elk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you guys agree? It's just not.
Yeah, no, I agree.
These things are not easy to put an arrow in, especially archery hunting.
Yeah.
And you got to take control of the things you can control so that the things you can't control are easier to deal with. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We talked about this in the car, and this is when we were in the Cybertruck too. So many hunters want to train their strengths, right? They're great shots. They're great fitness. They got more gear. They've spent $1 million in gear. They're top buyers at the GOHUNT gear shop, right? They've got more points than whatever. Hey, I love gear. I'm not. Yeah. They should buy more gear at the GOHUNT gear shop. I know.
They should. Use that promo code podcast.
You should do your promo code. Get you $50, right? But how many guys do that, right? They become fixated on gear. Yeah, they become fixated on their accuracy. Now they're all important. It's all important. Mm-hmm. But I mentioned this before, and I know I bring this up a lot, but I learned a lot of life lessons in this. I know it's hard to believe, but I used to do triathlon on kind of a big scale. And when I learned real quick I was a pretty good cyclist. I was a real strong and big dude, right, for a triathlete. 170-pound triathlete's big back in those days. I was a great cyclist. Not great, good cyclist. But I was a terrible swimmer, a mediocre runner. I'm a 170-pound marathoner is not.
Yeah, no idea.
Right? So what did I do all the time? Rode my bike, because I just could kill dudes on my bike. Well, in the race, I just get destroyed. I told everyone by the end of the race, I was best friends with these guys. They would pass me in the swim, I'd pass them on the bike, and then they'd pass me on the run.
Spent a lot of time with each other.
So my coach, I finally got a coach, he says, Mark, you're not riding the bike anymore until I tell you. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, no, none. I'm like, well, I got it. No, it's 0. You didn't hear me. 0. Put a chain on it. Whatever you got, none. For months. I swam and I ran. All of a sudden, I went to a race with almost no biking. And I PR'd by like 2 hours in the Ironman. Because I started training my weaknesses. Guys, if you're weak at computers and you're weak at what we're talking about, then you got to get stronger. You got to learn. You got to take initiative. Get out there, do some work. Because you got to train the weaknesses. The strengths, you're already strong. If you're a good shot, you're going to still be a good shot. You know, I'm not bashing these guys that always show themselves shooting their bow every day. You got to be able to kill what's in front of you. I get it.
It's true.
But you can't kill what you can't find.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you can kill an elk at 150 yards if you can't find one. I mean, you guys agree? There's a point where I hear it all the time. I'm just not good at computers. Mark, I just can't do your system because I'm just like, well, then that's good enough.
Yeah.
That's going to be the average. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what does it mean to you?
You can be the fit. Now, sometimes I think these guys like Lambers and Brady, they just run the animals down till they finally give up, commit suicide, right? But the average guy, no. And if you're Brian Barney, I always think Brian Barney just runs them down. Right? He finally dogs them until they just, okay, all right, just put an arrow in me. There's something to covering country, right? But there's also covering country with a purpose. And when you become 60, I still like to be fit and I still want to get out there and do the things at high levels. But I am finding myself getting very calculated on, like, when I go to glassing spot A, I want to know before I get there exactly what I can see from there. And I want to know how long it's going to take me to hike there, because I do not want to get there an hour after daylight, and I do not want to leave an hour before dark. I see hunters doing that all the time. That's the best way not to kill an elk is that. If you're hunting elk by visual, meaning you're trying to glass elk, the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, is get to your glassing spots 30 minutes after daylight and leave 30 minutes before dark.
Yeah.
Would you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
There's so many people I see all the time. When I finally get back to the whatever at my camp, or if I'm camping near road
They
system,
already got
I'm
food going.
Yeah, their wall. I see the wall tent's already glowing and all that. I'm not even close to getting my wall tent warmed up yet. You guys are already back at camp. Like, what's going on here?
How did you get dark to dark for sure?
Yeah, it's the way. Because to kill an elk, you have to find an elk. And you don't need to kill him that night. You just need to know he's there.
Yeah.
Right? You need a glimpse of that big bull.
Yep.
The last light he shows himself, you're like, there he is right there.
Yeah, even more so with the muley, I feel like. Yeah.
And they're really the ghost, and they call them the gray ghost for a reason, right?
Yep.
So I find so many guys that they don't have the route. So think about a glassing spot that's off trail. They don't take the time to plan the route up to it. So they're there. It's cliffy. It's ugly. They got their maps, but you know how that is. They're only so good. And the aerial imagery is only so good on the offline. It's good, but it's only so good. And they're like, okay, well, as soon as it gets light, I'm going to make my way up there. Well, that's too late.
Yep.
And but if you went into Google Earth with the highest quality imagery and you used LiDAR and you used all these different technologies that are available and you mapped the most incredible route, you've got the right steepness all the way, no cliffed out. You've got the best route through the openings. You've mapped through all the openings, no timber. And you just could get, it's a mile and a half. And you've got that blue line imported on you. You know how easy it is to go there?
Yeah.
You follow the line. It's another level of confidence, right? You're heading that glass by in the dark.
Yeah.
And you feel like you got it.
You know what?
You're not in a hurry.
Yeah.
You've already calculated the time. But I find almost no hunters pre-calculate their travel times.
Yeah, do you want to go into your modified Naismith rule?
Yeah, let's do it. You want to do that?
Because I think that's
we're getting deep here now.
Yeah, because
this is 2.0.
You're hinting it right now, so you might as well explain it, because I think that's very valuable. Because like I said, do not want to show up 30 minutes after sunrise. That's the worst thing possible. So like you have your route already calculated. You do all that. Explain how you would use your modified Naismith rule.
Okay, so I ask hunters all the time. Now that I'm doing this education stuff, I find myself asking a bunch of questions because I want to see what people say, right? And I say, okay, what time do you get up to hunt elk? Oh, I always get up at 5 o'clock. I'm like, okay. What if it takes you 3 hours to get your glassing spot? Well, I get up at 5. I'm like, well, isn't that about daylight? Yeah, that's about the time we can just start to see. I'm like, okay, well, that's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I hear that all the time. Guys, here's the thing. And nobody wants to admit this, but we're afraid of the dark. Humans are designed to be nervous. Now, when I say afraid, that's probably a strong word, but if you're not nervous in the dark in grizzly country, then you're kind of an idiot.
You're uncomfortable.
Right? That's part of the attraction, right?
For
it's
sure.
the adventure.
Yeah.
Like, get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So what I'm talking about here is calculating travel time to different things, like to your camp, to glassing spots, to whatever. And there's several ways you can do it, but there's a Naismith rule that was developed years ago. This guy did a lot of research with backpacking and hiking. And so what I've done is I've taken that rule and I've applied it to hunting. Basically what I did was I went back to look at all my tracks that I had saved. And I looked at what my average speeds were over time with elevation changes. And it was remarkably accurate. But there was one difference. When we're hunting, we're usually carrying a 20, 25 pound, like a day bed with our stuff, right? Spotting scopes, whatever we're carrying, 30 pounds maybe even sometimes. Now, I'm not talking about hiking in with 80 pounds on that's a whole different game. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about on the hunt with your day pack, with your essential gear. So I factored that in. So what it really works out to, guys, is, and this is where you got to trace the route. Okay, this is the only way. You have to trace it because you have to know two numbers. You have to know the accurate distance, and you have to know the total elevation change, up and down, not just up and not just down. Because according to the Naismith, it is, with my modifications, you guys can write this down, but off trail, the average hunter with 20 is about a mile an hour off trail. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's a mile an hour off trail. It's about 2 miles an hour on trail with 30 minutes additional for every 1,000 foot of elevation change. So for example, if you're hiking to glassing spot A and it's 2 miles and it's 2,000 feet of elevation, guys, it's going to take you, and everybody's like, it take me about an hour. No, it's going to take you 2 hours because the 2,000 foot is going to add another hour onto your normal hiking time. That's on trail. Yep. Off trail, that's off trail. It'll take you, 3 hours off trail. I'm sorry. 2 hours on trail, 3 hours off trail, right? So that's why I'm so into tracing these routes, because once you trace the route, so knock, hope, go hunt, tech people are paying. How cool would it be if go hunt, if you could draw a line and it gave you your estimated travel time?
Yep.
Come on, guys.
Built-in Naismith.
You'll be the first one. Nope, I can't believe nobody does it.
I know.
No app does it, and I just don't know why. What would even be cooler is what if it used all your previous tracks to calculate your personal time? Mm-hmm. Or if there was a setting in your preferences, you could put like Brady, he's figured out he's a mile and a half off trail, roughly, and he's 2.5 on. Okay, plug in your own. Guys, these are just starting points. What I recommend you do is go look at 5 tracks you've done. There, you got them on your phone. See what your elevation change was. See what your distance was. Do the math. Is it 2 or is it 2.2 or is it 1.5 or is it 1? Do some of your own calculations. Make some micro adjustments. The thing is, once you know, it is remarkably accurate. I mean, it's remarkably accurate. But think about that. So in that scenario, 2 miles up, you figure I can go 2 miles an hour. Well, you end up taking 3. You missed that bull by an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That's big.
What a waste.
Yeah.
To hike and sweat
and then you're going to assume, hey, there's no animals here.
You're going to say nothing. And that 400, just right when you got there, he just eased into the timber. And you sit there all morning and you nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially a deer particularly.
Really common with deer.
Yeah.
For sure.
Everybody gets there late.
Yeah.
So the other thing is the route. Now you know how much time it's going to take you, right? Well, you also have this really shining guiding light to get you there. You know you've looked at it to the nth degree using the tools you've studied every rock. You know it's a good route. You're confident. So same coming back. You know you can sit there till dark, no problem, because you know you can get out, no problem. And you're probably going to run a track on your way in as well to see how well your track matches up to the actual route. And I found that mine are almost, when I'm on the hike, I rarely deviate from my actual route because it's the best route I've learned how to plan routes so well that I just rarely deviate. Because you just get good at it, right?
Yeah.
It's like anything, guys. The more you do, the better off you get. First times, you're not going to be great at it.
Yep.
So using that Naismith principle, I call it the modified Naismith. I should come up with a name, some catchy tree line, something. But it's just a little bit of a tweak from what they say. Now, there's also several websites you can go to, and it does all the calculations for you. There's several. You can Google them, and I can't off the top. I remember the name of the website. Mostly trail hiking websites. But you can plug in your elevation change, plug in your distance, boom.
They'll tell you.
And you put how much you're carrying. They even got adjustable for pack weight.
Yeah, which is really cool. But that's like you said, you can look at some other tracks you've done before to estimate it. And we talked about dropping a track right when you're leaving in the morning. Like you know where you're going to go, so you might as well drop it. That way you can test your stuff to actually see it for yourself real time on the hunt. And then you always obviously have that track to go back on. Like that's why when I'm in the field, I'm always dropping tracks. Sure, I might delete them later. Or if it's the best route, absolutely. I might probably keep it on there. But just to test myself to see how long it actually takes to judge what I did before, but using the modified Naismith tool, it's like there's just so much you can do when you're on the hunt. It's not just, I think a lot of people think of an app on their phone as just a hunting navigational type thing, but it's
navigational. You're right. That's what most people use it for.
It's so much more than that because you're doing out there to, like I said, you're collecting data. You're collecting data constantly, whether it's hiking, whether it's animals, whether it's scouting for future hunts, whether it's I've started doing something recently too. I'm going to get off topic again, but like taking photos every time I'm at a glassing
Dude,
point.
I was just going to get to that.
Like literally every single time I stop and glass, I'm taking a photo, adding it to the waypoint. So that way, I might not ever hunt that unit again, but it's still going to help me compare then, okay, what did the satellite imagery look like on all these different platforms compared to when I was in the field? Okay, it looked like this, and these were finding animals on it. How can I then, I always talk about extrapolate that information for other places. But like you start dropping all those waypoints with photos, you now have a bigger giant library of in the field real-time photos of how it looked on that hunt and where you actually saw animals. And you could actually export that back out, and you want to get really crazy, start drawing on your photo where these animals are, where these things are, and then re-import it back into that waypoint. Like there's so many cool things you can do with photo waypoints.
It's probably one of the notes box and the photos are two of the most underutilized tools.
Especially for hunters,
I'm glad you brought that up.
Who they realize, in the day and age we're at, everyone's trying to steal other people's information. That's why no one posts scenery photos at all. But so you're like, oh, I'm not going to take a photo of that because what am I going to do with that? I'm not going to share that. I'm not going to send that photo of that terrain to anyone. But you're going to use it.
You should never cross a wallow.
Yeah.
Ever that you don't take a picture, drop it with your pin. So when you start looking back at the walls, you can start seeing how they used them and how they didn't use them. So let's say you found 5 wallows in an area and you drop photos on all of them, and you're laying at camp and you say, these two were both used. Look, there's a bitch right between. You start connecting the dots, guys. It just starts speaking to you because you're setting it up to speak to you. When it's just a sea, when you're like trail and it's just a sea of orange, GOHUNT. He's good because he's just good.
I don't walk by walls without labeling them.
But take pictures with them, right?
Some, not all.
Yeah, and I used to not. I'm using the photo. Well, remember the technology to drop the photos in used to not be as good as it. Now it's like, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And using the photos, guys, especially if you're going to hunt the same areas again, if you like to hunt the same, which, guys, there's a lot of reason to hunt the similar. My nature just won't let me, guys. I'm 60. We just talked about 59. I'm going to be 60 this year. My bucket list of hunt areas is bigger than my life span right now. So I just got too many places I want to go, and but. In reality, to kill the biggest bulls, you got to do what you alluded to earlier. You get in a spot that has a bunch of elk, then you start fine tuning that spot. It might not happen the first year. It might happen, and that's how Ryan kills a lot of big bulls. Sometimes he won't kill them the first year, but he'll kill another big bull in another area that he's been targeting, and then he'll work another, and then the next year he'll kill a big bull there.
Come back
like this, like he killed a big old Montana,
Rolodex of spots,
giant Montana bull this year, and one of the reasons is because we knew that bull was there. We've been seeing it. We didn't get him last year. We got him this, he's Ryan, there's nothing he likes better than going to kill an animal that he saw the year before.
For sure.
That's just his favorite thing. Bears, everything, right?
It's the best thing in the world.
And I'm not like that because I don't go back very often. And so my style is not really the most productive. It's just mine, whatever your style is. And but these photos and these notes, they really shine when you're hunting the same places over again.
Well, I think it would shine even if you weren't, because
it does.
As you're talking, like I'm imagining myself, if you can, let's say that you're looking to go hunt a new area that you've never been to, but you can sit back and you can look at your screens across the areas that you have hunted. I can imagine if you've done all the work and you've color coded everything and you've attached pictures, I would think pretty quickly you would start to see commonalities between where you have hunted and you have found elk and you have found success to where you can extrapolate that out to a new area and say pretty quickly, like without having to do a whole lot of work, this area here looks like that area, it should hold out. And then really drill down.
This bench looks very similar to that bench.
To that bench. Yeah.
And look at all these black dots I had around that bench.
Yeah, and I think when if you would be zoomed out, you could probably pretty quickly just visually look at it, and like you're saying, it would speak to you. You'd be like, okay, yeah, this.
So that brings up that. I'm so glad you said that. You guys are good at asking the right questions. So everybody always asks me, like, okay, Mark, you got these, not everybody, but I've gotten this question. Okay, so you got these 12 things. How do you get those 12 things? Well, I listened to other people over the years, but what I really did was when I decided to build this course was COVID. So I have an event company. We produce events, festivals, concert, whatever, right? Well, we were zero. We were out of work. And so I'm like, I got nothing to do. I'm like, I've been thinking about building this course anyway, and Ryan's been trying to get me to do something, and I'm like, now's the time. So I'm a tech guy. You guys probably already know that by now. Well, I've got every GPS known to man. I have guys. I have an Eagle flip open screen version. I wanted to bring it.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
God, I'm gonna bring it. Like, it was one of the first GPS ever created. It's about this long. It's got a screen that flips open. Takes 10 AA batteries. And it only tells you the direction to the waypoint, like 180 degrees. That's it.
Yep.
Like the old GPS, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
Anyway, what I did, guys, I started looking at all my waypoints I've done over 30 years. I exported them all into an Excel spreadsheet. I imported them all into an app. I started seeing groupings of this. I started doing what you just said. So I started to see, like, okay, these staircase benches are coming up more than once. Like, and then I started seeing these, I call them these lateral benches and these certain saddles that have steep walls on both sides. And then these drainages that have flat spots in the middle of steep, like a drainage that comes down super steep and then it levels and then super steep. Money, especially if there's no trail on the bottom. I'm seeing all kinds of points in those areas. So I started looking at my own data. And eventually I started extrapolating out a few of these features. Then I would listen to Randy, I'd listen to you, everybody. And it started making sense. And so that's really where I developed. It wasn't magic. It wasn't like, it was just trial and error, looking at data and figuring out what were the commonalities in the edge habitat, right? It just started making sense. Everybody says edge. Well, what does that mean? Dude, I started finding all these pens of elk that wallows were always on edges of timber, edges of burns, edges of meadows, and within 200 feet of plus or minus. It was just so obvious. And so it became very quickly, I had a list of a few things. Let's call it 7 or 8. I don't remember what it was. Then coupled with I already knew slope angles. Then that was where research. We talked about this before. I had this fascination with angle. I'm like, what slope steepness do elk want to be on? Right? What steepness? I'm shocked how steep what they like to be on, right? And I started looking at research papers. Well, they're not hunting research papers, they're habitat studies. And it was pretty clear. It's 18, 20%, like every time, all the time. So that became one of my features. So like when I can find north slopes that are in that steepness range that have these other features, I'm like, I start getting excited. Because that's 3 features right there. Slope facing, slope steepness, and topography features.
Yeah, that's the terrain analysis tool.
Right? And where's that bench at? Well, the other thing I started figuring out was not all benches are created equal. I was not having very good luck finding elk on benches below halfway point on a slope. I always seemed to have pins And I always seemed to have a lot of activity, trails, wallows, rubs, all the things I had marked, not always elk, halfway and up. But it seemed to stop about 3/4 of the way. So I started I don't know if that was the first one, but I started saying there's a band about halfway up to 3/4 of the way. And then I talked to Brian Barney one time. He goes, oh, yeah, the elk, they hate me being near the top. Mule deer really hate it because the wind circulation is bad. They want consistency. Well, that starts making sense. So it wasn't just my data. It was kind of validating with some of the guys that really know what they're doing. And so that's kind of how it was born. And I don't know if that makes sense, but
makes total sense.
You know, but it took doing what you're just saying is look at some of your own stuff. Look at your tracks, calculate your miles. Sometimes you just got to step back. You can't see the forest for the trees sometimes, right? And you got to just think through things on a logical basis. Like, okay, I'm going to plan my routes. What's the best way? I'm like, well, I've got a lot of tracks. Let's do some math. Guys, it sometimes it's just thinking about it.
It's the old adage, how do you eat an elephant?
Yeah, one bite,
one bite at a time.
And I think people think about it that it's too high tech. None of the stuff we've talked about is high tech. Yeah. These are all principles that anybody can do with a little bit of work. Yeah.
And the cool thing you touched on too, like the, edge habitat and all that, we touched on the last Greatest Geek Scouting podcast, like all the Google Earth or Google Scholar stuff you can do out there. Like you can find these research papers. Yeah, some of them you have to pay for, but like, you can't just
if you look around, you can almost always find them.
Yeah, you can't just go to Google a lot of times and find some of these. Like there's a separate Google Scholar. We have articles on GOHUNT, talked about it a ton, like literally using Google Scholar to figure out some of the stuff. Yeah, it might not be in the same, unit or mountain range as some of these studies are, but there's like, migration studies out there. There's what do elk eat every single day of the year. Like you can find all this, where they like to bed, what type of slopes, what type of aspect they like to live on. Like all this information you can read, and we always touch. Knowledge is power. Learning about the animals you're going to hunt is almost more important than putting the boots on the ground and trying to walk around aimlessly through the mountain range. We don't really know a lot of stuff. Learn a lot of stuff first before you go out there. Learn a lot of stuff before you start to e-scout. All that stuff's going to pay off in huge dividends when you learn about the animal exactly. Then you're going to know what to e-scout.
Well, we talked about this too. So, guys, almost every state, every Western state, I think, is mandated to produce elk management reports. And like the one in Idaho is like 250 pages.
Yeah.
The one in Montana is like 300 guys. There are some gold nuggets in there. They'll talk about, they get even specific. The migration patterns.
Yeah.
The, are they trending up? Are they trending down? The winter kill objectives. The, what they're planning to do over the year, how many, kind of like what the plan is on long term. But there's habitat stuff in there. There's, you might read 50% of it and it might really not be that applicable, but you got to decide, okay? Are you going to be good enough? Are you going to be an average elk hunter? Or are you not? If you're just going to go out there and just wing it, nothing wrong with that. You can have a blast. But it's really what you're doing is you're going on a camping trip. And then every once in a while, an elk will commit suicide. And I'm going to be honest, my first 4 or 5 years of elk hunting, I did kill a couple elk, but they literally committed suicide. It had nothing to do with my hunting ability. My first elk was a cow, and I thought it was a horse loose in the woods. I'd never seen an elk in the wild, never had seen one. And it was the first elk I saw I killed.
Wow.
And it was a cow with a calf. Bad. She just practically ran me over. I was sitting on a stump. And she went around a tree, and when I pulled my bow back, I was shooting this real heavy PSE at the time, and probably more than I should have been pulling. And she went around the tree, and when I went to pull back, when she got behind the tree, I had to lean back because she was going to knock my broadhead off my bow. So when I let the arrow go, I was probably 8 inches away from her.
Point blank.
And
that's crazy.
I hit her too high because it's hard. I couldn't aim. I just kind of put it on her, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, she committed suicide. And but after that, it got a little rougher for me, for a couple of years. I thought, this is easy. You just go out there, sit in the woods, they'll come to you, you just shoot them. And that's not the way it went for, a while. But you learn over time, and but we didn't have what we had then. Guys, you guys that are listening to this podcast, you're already taking a giant step. You're listening.
Yeah. just speaking of that too, I remember back in the day, it's going to again date us. You probably did the same thing, but I remember when Google Earth Pro, you had to pay. I think it was
$3.99.
It was something
I bought it.
I bought it as well. And it's like, oh, you must be nice. You had the extra funds to do that. Like I work for the state. I work for Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks. I work for Idaho Fish and Game. Then I work for United States Geological Survey. I didn't make a shit ton of money by any means, but I knew that me buying Google Earth Pro compared to the people using Google Earth, I knew that I was going to set myself apart from the other people. I was going to have more success because I was going to have the better tools, better satellite imagery than other people. So like, and now you think about it today where people are like, oh, I can't believe, GoHunt, $149, that's a lot of money. It's like, I get that, it's a lot of money. But like what I used to do back in the day was I spent $399. So now I can spread it across multiple different apps. Like I can have different tools that aren't even in the hunting industry that I have on my phone right now that I utilize, like different weather maps, different actual mapping maps, like to compare different things that are outside the industry to how to use that for my hunt. I can just spread that money across because I spent $399 back in the day on Google Earth Pro to get the tools I wanted to do because I'm so dedicated, because I want different success than other people. Like you said, I don't want 6%. I want to go in the field and, have success every single year.
There's a difference between going out there expecting to kill and going out there hoping to kill.
Yeah, taking a rifle
Those
for a walk.
Those are radically
do
different. I'm a trail. You guys don't go on a hunt hoping to kill. Mm-hmm. You go on a hunt expecting to kill, and when you don't, you're ticked. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That's not the average.
Yeah.
The average dude is just like praying that most of the time, guys, and this is going to hit home with a lot of people, most people are praying to see an elk.
Yeah.
It really blows my mind how guys tell me like, man, I went last year, we saw 2 elk. I'm like, 2 elk? Should have moved day 1.
Yeah.
Right now, that's not completely true, but
it's like even doing things to set stuff up like this. I mean, this is not fully e-scouting, but we talk about downloading, PDFs of biology reports and looking at harvest reports that the state puts out or whatever. Like that's why I got an e-reader. One of the main reasons I love to read. I read all the time, like physical books, but I can put PDFs on an e-reader and take that little 3-ounce device in the backcountry and read through some PDFs when I'm hunting. And then evening, I can put I have PDFs right now, a bunch of actual bear studies, researching a bunch of bear stuff. I have on my phone right now PDF. So yeah, it's kind of small. I have to zoom in and move around, but I have a full multiple PDFs on my phone in my download section. Just the same thing I do with my Kindle to be able to research things more often. Like, yeah, I love Lord of the Rings. I've read those books 100 times, but do I need to keep reading them? Probably not. I could probably read, some biology reports a little bit more.
You can get together with your e-scouting group.
E-scouting club that I'm going to start. Yeah.
And read and watch.
The book of the month is bear hibernation studies. I know bear hibernation studies. We're all going to get together and we're going to talk about it.
So it sounds psycho, but it's like there's ways to do this that you can, not have that 6%. If you want to.
That's the key.
Guys, we're talking about a lot of things.
True.
If you only do a part of what we're talking about, you're making steps. Yeah. That's what I tell it. And you said the elephant thing, right? I'm sitting here looking at this. So one of the things I got asked at my last tour, which I can't believe I've been overlooking this. I got this hunter template that I give everybody, and I get up there and I lecture to them about all this stuff like this. Some guy just raised his hand. He says, "Mark, do you have like a checklist, like step by step of like that can remind us of all the steps?" Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's dumb. Why do I not have that?
Yeah, exactly. Like we're talking about before, what's step 1, what's step 2?
Obvious. Like I'm thinking, well, I just told you. Well, I know, Mark, but that was 15 hours of lecture.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just think everybody, so that's why I'm working on it. So I brought it with me, right? So I've got, right now there's 18 things on this list.
Ooh, can I see a little sample of that later?
So like, for example, I'll run through a couple. Yeah, we're not going to get into it. Let's just, now this is draft. This is the first it's ever been released.
What about top 5?
Okay, this is the first it's been released.
Okay, you heard
number
first,
1,
Big Hunt Guys podcast.
Hunt area naming sequence. Like I just said, do the process. 2, big picture overview. All the drones, the 3D analysis. I really like the printed maps, guys. Mm-hmm. If I can get them, if I can get the National Forest map for the area, I get it. Mm-hmm. There's almost nothing better, even with technology, laying that map out on the table and just kind of absorbing it. I do like that. And then selecting primary and secondary hunt application. That's step number 3. So what I mean by that is, let's say you're going to a hunt, and I know we're a GOHUNT, but let's just be real here. And GOHUNT's going to be your primary hunt application. This is important, guys. All your custom markups, the colors and everything needs to be done in that application. Mm-hmm. Even though you might be looking at other applications, you want to only put your markup colors in your primary, the one that you're going to rely on for the hunt. I always run 2. I never have ever gone on a hunt in recent years without 2 apps with 2 down, just in case. It's too important. You can't take chances. But I have one primary and then I have a backup, right? So whichever app is your primary, make sure that's where you do your color coding in. Okay, because you don't want to try to keep up multiple apps. It'll get confusing. Yep. Okay, so that's what that means. Identifying all potential access points is number 4. Basically, that zones of pressure stuff we talked about. Outlining, then hunt parameters. We ain't even talked about that, but it's basically a radius that's within your reach. If you're if you backpack 5 miles is your max with an elk, then you draw a 5-mile circle, and that's where all your e-scouting should be. There's no sense e-scouting 20 miles from the trailhead if you can't go there. How many times you found yourself doing, look at this spot, and you're like, I can't get there.
I found myself in places I shouldn't have gone.
Yeah, that's right. So I think for newer hunters, it's very valuable. Tracing all open roads is number 7. I trace all private land borders. Trace them because I want to. Guys, the act of tracing is not just identification. It's you're learning it. And I study the private. Are roads coming from the private into the national forest? Does it look like there's activity on those borders? And then the 12, identifying on the 12, number 10 is a big one. Identifying the 12 outfinding features, right? Glassing spot identification, final motor vehicle use, and testing the motor vehicle. So I know we like to believe these apps are perfect every time. They're not. All of them. I've found it. Now, they're pretty reliable, but there are problems. So I have a 4-step process I teach. You always start with the app. But when you really are invested in that hunt area, you're going to want to go to the National Forest page and get the motor vehicle use map and double check it.
Yeah.
Because is there anything worse than going on a hunt and finding out a road is closed you thought was open or vice versa?
Man, and if you've hunted even a little bit, you've had that happen.
Dude, it happens.
It happens all the time.
It's a quick step to just get that PDF, kind of match it up to GOHUNT. Like, oh, looks good. Perfect.
Yep.
But you might find a couple of discrepancies. And if you do, now you know. So that's one of them. I trace all the established trails. And the main reason I do it is because I want the mileage and the elevation change. Because why do I need that? Because I need it for time estimate, how long I can get from point A to point B. Water features for stock, where my campgrounds are. I check cell phone availability. There's a couple apps you can run that'll tell you if you can, just so I like to know if my wife, I can say, hey, it looks like I'm going to sell here. That's number 15. And then final evaluation markup, meaning I clean up all the markups, get all the colors straight, get all the naming straight, and then finally I write the plan out written. And that's, I've got a few more that I got to put in here, but that's really the 17, 18 steps that I kind of teach, that I teach at my live events, and some of the things we talked about today, but we only tip of the iceberg as far as that goes. But it did shock me that that's the first person that ever asked me that in all the live events. Really? I said, Mark, do you have like a checklist? I'm like,
yeah,
I should have that.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot, and that's, I mean, he brings up a good point to just be able to go down one by one by one by one.
Some things are applicable in some areas and some are not.
Yeah.
If you're hunting the deep wilderness area, maybe motor vehicle use analysis isn't a deal.
Sure.
Right? But if you're from Oregon, if you're going to hunt elk in Oregon, that's a deal.
Most places.
If you drew a limited Nevada tag,
sure,
maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe you're going to hunt elk a mile from the road or half a mile from the road.
Yeah.
All this is not always applicable, and
most of it is.
Yeah, but most of the time, for most of your hunts, it is.
Yeah.
Does that all make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Gosh, there's so much more I want to talk about. I was touching on one more thing, so I wanted to give some. I always
you got to save some voice for later.
Save some voice for later.
Guys, this always sounds like this, but I'm always in this perpetual state.
But we got to give people. We got to give people the good. We got to give people the goods. And so, like, we're talking about using everything you have available, using things outside the industry, like I mention all the time. It's like there's another level of detail too. There's all these road webcams, ski resort webcams, all these different things you can actually tap yourself into to look at real time.
I can't believe you're going here.
Like real time.
You're giving all the goods.
Real time video, real time photos of what the mountain looks like right now. It's just like basically you're there taking a photo, like, hey, this is what this glassing point looks like. Like if I want to track conditions before I go hunting, like, okay, I'm going spring bear hunting. What's the spring bear snow conditions going to look like? I'm probably going to be Googling, looking all over the place. All right, what's the ski resorts in the area? Do they have webcams? Is there traffic cams in the area? Because a lot of times there is on major interstates you actually can see. Because truck drivers use them.
That passes at certain elevations.
Yeah, you want to check elevations or whatever it is and see what the weather is in real time. Like there's so much information out there. And that's what leading up to, I want to ask one really big question is where do you see e-scouting technology evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? And do you think it could get to a scary point?
Well, that's funny because I just got asked this question. So I don't know if you guys have thought about this, but so remember, I'm old. 34 years ago, I went hunting with printed topo maps.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Literally, we took packing tape
Yeah, you taped them all.
to waterproof them, right?
Oh, yeah.
I've done it.
And we were scared to death that we were going to find elk off the map. Like, we got to get off the map. And literally, we pull those maps because the topo map, guys, only works if you know where you're at on the topo map.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got to constantly get your compass, check a lens, and just kind of guess where you're at. And so I got lost for 3 days in Colorado, like on my second or third year. And it was pretty brutal. Not for me. I knew I was okay, but my friends were like stressed. Mm-hmm. They already had the horses. They already had fishing game. Everybody was gathering. When I got out, they were gathering, right? But I came out on this road, and this old man finally picked me up. I had to throw myself in front of his car and beg him to take me. It was a 3-hour drive. I'd walk. It was just a long drive. It wasn't that, but I was like 30 miles away by the time I walked for 3 straight days the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's what happens with Topo Map, right? So my point is, we hunted with Topo Map, literally. Then came GPSs, which all they told you was you could drop a point. And remember, they had selective availability back then. They jammed the signal. The government used to jam the signal. So it could be 300 yards off. Mm-hmm. So you could get in the general area, though, right?
Yeah.
And then we had the Onyx chip, right? And you put the chip in. Then all of a sudden, Onyx had the web app. And then all of a sudden, GOHUNT, there's competition. Now they're getting better. So, but what do you think is done? What do you think's happened with the elk success rates?
Who did we talk to
They've
about
gone
this?
down.
Brian?
Yeah.
I think we talked with Brian Barney about
They've gone
this.
down with technology.
Yeah.
What does that tell us? That hunters have gotten lazy or they're not as good at hunters? I don't know what the case is, but people used to say back in the day when Onyx first came out, every elk's dead. The elk have no chance now. There's no place that the elk can hide. Yeah. Well, it's obviously not the case. Mm-hmm. Elk they adapt. They've adapted to this stuff. So now the good news is now, since I guess was about the 50s, I guess, is when they started having a hunting license in most places. Because before the 50s, it was kind of a free-for-all, I think, right, for the most part. Because I remember my dad was telling me he went on grizzly hunt in Wyoming in the 40s.
Wow.
It was just like, that's why they didn't have any grizzlies, because they just shoot them, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is crazy.
And,
think about.
So the point is, like drones and thermals, they're staying on top of some of this newer technology, but the mapping technologies, the trail cams, the cell trail cams, so as long as the hunting industry, not industry, but as long as the regulatory industries are willing to kind of tackle these hurdles, it's probably going to keep it at a dull roar. Yeah. Because let's be honest, I know everybody likes that. The trail cam's controversial. I know everybody got mad when they took it away in Utah. Dude, it was getting outrageous.
Yeah,
and there was 9 trail cams on every tree, right?
Yeah, Arizona even worse.
Yeah, and now with the cell, it really was creating a very difficult situation for the animals, right? So I think that hopefully, but to answer your point, I think we've seen that the technology has, in the past 20 years, just exploded for us.
Yeah, like you said, like the harvest
and
success.
It hasn't changed the odds hardly. It actually they've decreased.
Yeah, because the reason I bring it up is like we have now, there's so much more real-time weekly satellites. Like you can get satellite views for every time. And you talk about use it spring bear hunting quite a bit. I use it on late season mule deer hunting all the time too. And then you have LiDAR on top of that, like looking at exact,
LiDAR is ridiculous.
Laser imaging of all the mountain ranges all over the place. So you have all these different things you can use, but yet you still have to put the time in to use them. And I think a lot of people still aren't either not using it or they're not maybe understanding it, which I hope people do take the time to learn, more about these different things. But it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of tools out there. I don't think
they know necessarily sometimes how it fits together.
Yeah.
So you hear people talk about LiDAR. Well, LiDAR is ground scanning technology, right? It's a scan. It's a digital scan of the ground, incredibly accurate, with no trees.
Yeah.
It is very, very powerful. Mm-hmm. But It's not great in some areas yet. There's some areas that are real blurry, right?
It's some areas you can't even use it in some mountain
And
ranges
it's
I looked
really,
at.
the closer you get to civilization, the better it is, obviously, like everything. What do you think about this UGC stuff that's coming out? These drone image tiles, like, so in the cities now, if you're a whitetail hunter and you're reasonably close to a city, there's
phenomenal.
really good chance they got drone images, just like aerial, tiled. You can see nose hairs with those things. I mean, you can see deer, you can see dogs, cats, you can see everything. But it's not everywhere, right? But I suspect over time that
It will be.
the drone technology, there's not going to be any more satellite imagery.
Pretty soon it'll be.
Why? They're just going to fly drones like the Google car.
Right. Yeah.
We just saw one driving around. Well, they're going to be doing it in the sky.
Pretty soon we're just going to take those, whatever they are, the meta glasses, throw those on. I can e-scout right here, just looking around.
You know, somebody asked me about
I can
that.
walk through the whole unit and check
I
it all
haven't tried.
out.
Have you ever tried them with Google Earth? I haven't tried
I've never
them.
actually put a pair on.
I haven't either. So
Yeah.
But I mean, like, who knows? So that's going to be a thing in the future. We're not going to e-scout our phones anymore. We can literally e-scout
but you
real-time
know
in the
what?
mountains.
You can e-scout. You still got to go out there and do the work.
That's where my mind always goes.
Right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you can use all the tools in the world, and I think you should. And I think if you do it, you'll be more effective and more, more successful. But reality is, it all has to come together. It's just one piece of the puzzle.
like your film is. You got to put in the work.
You have to connect all of them.
And I think there's guys out there, they want to do short. The guys, when it comes to killing elk on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say, probably one of the last things I'll say, guys. There are no shortcuts. There are none. Everybody's like, I can't tell you how many times people say this to me, Mark. Just can you tell me what your secrets are? I mean, what don't you teach? I'm like, dude, this is exactly what I use. So I just got asked my new toolkits. I sent those to you. Do you have them?
I have them.
Oh, dude, have you used them? What do you think?
Phenomenal. I love them.
I gotta
Actually,
give them the trail.
It's like being able to geek out. Like I said, I throw
It
it up
basically
my
turns
TV.
Google Earth into GOHUNT,
Gotcha.
except a few other little things. But anyway, everybody's like, Mark, what are yours? What do you use? I use exactly that. That's why I built that toolkit. It wasn't ever built for you.
Right.
It was built for me, and then I realized nobody had it, so now I'm making it available.
Right.
Yeah, look, here it is open on my computer. Boom.
Oh, you got it.
Toolkit bundle.
So there's no shortcuts. You got to put in the work. You got to be willing to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And the biggest thing is stop training your weaknesses. Your strengths. Maintain them. Don't focus on them. If you just focus on things you're weak at in backcountry hunting, and there's really only a few. There's only a few things, guys. Fitness, nutrition, animal finding capabilities, and proficiency with your weapon. That's about it. There's not much more. Maybe gear, obviously gear, but you don't have to have the best gear. Now, I think the gear nowadays is what's letting people get deeper and more comfortable, and they lighter weight, all the things.
For sure.
But those 5 things is about it. So which ones are you good at, and which ones are you not? And that's where you need to focus your attention.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're spot on. There's a lot there. There's a lot to take in. This is like, I think I said this last time you were here. This is one I will have to go back and listen to
and
again.
I tell people this too, is like, we just glass things sometimes. It's like, sometimes you need to listen to this podcast. Maybe we say things and move on.
Yeah, move on really quickly. You can spend 2 hours on one subject.
What did you just say?
Yeah.
That little hunt area color. What was that one little thing?
Yeah. Pick those up and then dive
going
in
back
deep,
and this is not a bad idea. Anyway, I enjoy coming. I know I said this last time, and I've been on a lot of podcasts. I'm not just blowing air up your booties. I love going into the room with people that like this as much as I do, right? That doesn't happen very often. And most guys, they just want to talk about what I'm doing. I love getting in the weeds, right? I know sometimes these things get to people like, whoa, this is kind of out there. But it's just it's fun to do. I'm a student of the game. Guys, 35 years. I'm still a student of the game. I learn things almost on a weekly basis that I did not know. Like right now, I'm on this new thing now. I'm on this Landsat kick. So I'm off this Sentinel is one thing, but now they got these new Landsat 11 satellites. And I found a site that has kind of the cruder images of it. So I need to share that with you. You may already know, but it's so freaking powerful. Because when it comes to bear hunting, guys, snow is everything, right?
Yeah.
Everything. You got to know where it's at, what elevation's at. Is it melting? Is it not melting? How deep is it? All these questions, right? They can all be answered. You don't have to go in the field to answer those questions. Not anymore. Used to. Can I drive there? Can I not drive there?
Yep.
Those are all questions that can be answered. But that's kind of one of my new areas I've been geeking out, because that technology and this satellite imagery and these drone imageries, and it's advancing at a lightning speed. And I think AI is going to be a big part of being able to stitch those images together, right? Having the computer power to have all these drone shots and be able to put them together in a cohesive, on a kind of a mat, so to speak. Anyway, there's a lot of good things. It's a good time to be a backcountry hunter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting time for sure.
Yeah. If you can get a tag.
And see where it goes.
There is one thing I've been saving for this point to bring up on this podcast. I told Trail we're in the bathroom before we started. I was going to maybe slightly poke fun at him.
Is this an ambush?
Maybe slightly poke fun at him.
Probably me. Yeah.
What do you got? How much time do you spend e-scouting, Trail, and how many waypoints do you go into the field with?
Very, very few. Admittedly.
Okay.
I'm not a good I'm a decent e-scouter. I'm not very good at like putting a plan together prior to going into the woods.
This is just a very funny while making fun of it. Obviously, I know this thing I'm about to say was slightly made up and all that stuff. But if you remember, we did a Madden sports card rating score the other day. And then this is, I don't know why it's irking me.
What was my e-scouting rating?
Your e-scouting rating was the same as mine. At 90.
Oh, no way.
Trail got a 90 e-scouting rating, and I have a 90 e-scouting rating. And like obviously someone messed up your shooting.
I think you have a bone to pick with somebody else, not me.
Someone had a way.
I didn't pick that.
Someone hammered your shooting score, by the way. Your shooting score should have been a 99.9.
No, I don't think so.
But I thought it was
50% down the middle.
I just thought it was funny. Someone here at GOHUNT thought Trail was a really excellent e-scout. I'm like,
I'm not.
The only time I've ever seen Trail really e-scout, that's why I give him a lot of props, is your archery antelope hunting. He has every single water source in the unit mapped out. Even place we're not even considered, and the unit's next door. So he wants to know where antelope are moving into. So archery antelope hunting, he's an A++ e-scouter. But I thought it was funny that he got a 90.
Yeah, I have a lot of ground to gain when it comes to e-scouting. For sure.
Guys, okay. I'm glad you said that, because I haven't said this yet. In my opinion, guys, there's only 2 ways to become a better Western game hunter. That's it, only 2. You either have to get better by experience, get a lot of bats. Like you get a lot of at-bats. We're blessed. We live here. We hunt here. We got jobs. That's why we got the job. Guys, that's why we do what we do. So you get experience or you get education. So the education side is not as important to guys like Trail, because he's
literally part elk.
Yeah, he's getting it. He doesn't need to. He rolls up to Trail at A, just like Ryan. The elk are over there. He doesn't know why he said it. He doesn't even know what went into that thought. He just, they're right there. Yep. Because all the things that we've been talking about are just, through his little AI brain, are just filtering through. And he just says, well, that's obvious. That's where we're going.
Because he's been elk hunting for 120 years. That's right.
And I see that from all the best hunters. Brian Barty saying, he goes, well, that's just that basin. I'm like, why? Well, that's just where they are.
Yeah.
Now, but they're applying a lot of these same principles. They just don't realize they're even doing it, because it's all experience based.
You said a number of things though today, and I'll have to go back and like actually pull them out. But one thing that you said that's really been resonating, and I would guarantee that myself and everybody else listening to this included will have had this situation where things aren't working out, and you're like, I don't know what to do. And you're laying there in your tent and you're like, I don't know what to do. And it's a really sickening, panicking feeling. And I have had that feeling. I've looked everywhere. Like I've been to all the spots. I've thought about it, and there's really nothing worse than just and it really is easy to talk yourself off the hill at that point.
But that's where experience comes in.
And go home. But and I have enough experience to know that like that's not the case.
Hang in there.
Yeah, hang in there. Just keep looking.
But when you lack that, that's where the education comes in.
Yeah. I can see that. So that I thought was really good. You said a lot of really good things today. It's like I genuinely will. I went back and listened to the last one that we did with you, and I will this one. And
I always feel like they're cryptic a little bit, because I feel like we get so excited. We got on one topic, then we're on another topic.
That's actually what I like about them, though.
Yeah. We're so passionate about a little thing.
I don't want to. It's like you want to teach someone to fish. You teach them to fish. You don't like give them the fish.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this kind of stuff, I want to expose you to what's possible, and you got to go out and do some work.
Yep.
You heard 20 things you need to be doing. Well, research them, look them up, listen to podcasts, get it all. And
take the next step.
Take the next step.
Yeah, I like that.
Yep, exactly. I hope by the next time you come down here, I hope it's not a year and a half again. We do another.
I didn't realize it's been that long. Time flies.
I know I didn't either.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I hope by then my e-scouting club is off and going and we can sit down. The whole time I've been visioning too. Maybe
Tuesday
it's because
night Lord of the Rings, Thursday night e-scouting.
Yes, exactly.
A party at Brady's.
It'll be part of my house. And I hope by then too. I don't want any other company to steal this idea, but I hope by then we have an e-scouting command center here at GOHUNT. I keep visioning, like those James Bond movies where like the table is the map and you can move it around and slide it up and you have like little windows that you can touch and scroll over, like an e-scouting command center. We have all these screens.
I want to be
up
able
on
to
the
do
wall.
3D with just like your hands.
Yeah,
right?
it comes up
like you got a ball.
It comes
like
up out of the table. Like the mountain actually does, and we can spin it around and drop waypoints.
Wondering, why don't we have the triple monitor set
You
up
mean
here
like a hologram?
A hologram type thing. Like that's what I want in here, right in the center. We can walk through people and like just make this an e-scouting command center.
Hologram would be pretty dope.
Let's do it.
I like it.
Well, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you guys.
We really appreciate it.
Like I said, I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. I really look forward to it, and
Ditto.
we probably should do it more often. And we should probably get like. When we only do them once a year, we just get together and just do it. We should. I mean, we should do one where we kind of get some like playing it out. Like we just don't throw everything at the wall.
That's when we just talk about one little thing and we just hammer that. Yeah.
So anyway, I've been doing these tours. I've been traveling doing these tours, and it's like 17 hours. And by Sunday, these guys, I mean, they're worn down. And I'm like, I feel like on Sunday I'm giving them pep talks. I'm like, okay, guys, you got to hang in there. You came here because you wanted everything. Yeah. And if you want to quit, you can, but that's what you're going to do in the woods.
That's a good point.
I'm like, we're at the finish line. We're almost at the finish line, right? Because it is a process, and it's not easy. But elk hunting isn't easy. That's what we love about it.
Yeah.
Guys, it's 6%.
If it was easy, you wouldn't love it.
It would, if you could go out there and...
Not as much.
High fence operations and whatever. There's just no fun in that. Like we went hog hunting this last week. We had a blast. It was fun, but I would not want to do it every year, and I certainly wouldn't want to do it every season. I don't know. And I'm not dissing people that love to hunt, whatever.
Yeah.
I love the adventure of the backcountry. I like, the hunting part, the killing part is secondary to the adventure. And so anyway, I hope that everybody can embrace that. And
tell people where they can find you.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going? Where can they find you and
I
find
just
your course?
consolidated everything, guys. So a couple things. treelineacademy.net. I kind of have everything there now instead of Treeline Pursuits and Academy. So treelineacademy.net. But what I hope you'll do too is I have a new show. It's called the Thrive Podcast. Brady was just on it this last episode.
I was honored to be on it.
It's only a 20-minute show. It's I'm going to try to talk you guys into doing one with me while I'm here. But it's just what's going on in the Western hunting space. And to be honest, half of it's been GOHUNT stuff. I review a lot of articles that you guys do, draw attention to the articles, use you guys as references where it's tag drawing season. So I've been doing a lot of that stuff. Because I'm all about the insider for sure. And so right now it's been a hot topic for a lot of my shows. But it's not a podcast. It's called a vodcast. It's only available on YouTube. But what I try to do is I try to do some rants, obviously. I got pretty strong opinions about things. But I always try to teach a tech segment, 6 minutes, like how to do this route calculation, nascent, beginning to end, how to use the snap to functions, how to do quick snow level, and just not long, I want people to come away with it like, oh, okay, I know how to do that. So you one step at a time, like you said, just one little nugget at a time. And it's been fun so far. So I'm only 6 episodes in. So
I really like that bear one you did.
Thrive.
That was
Thrive. Oh, the bear. Yeah.
The bear one.
On your YouTube channel?
So you know where that came from, don't you? That was an article that I wrote for you guys. I took the same article and I said, you know what? I need to videoize this thing, if that's a word. And I took that article that I wrote and I kind of made it shorter because I had a short time frame. So it was the 5 principles or whatever, And but yours is pretty good in the car. It turned out pretty good. I don't know if you saw it yet. I've got a lot. It just came out Tuesday, so
be sure to check that out.
But it was funny, especially when the people were trying to get in the car. I edited some of that out.
I know. They kept
People were
opening the
opening
doors
the back
on
door
us.
and getting in while we were recording.
Yeah, it was kind of funny.
Welcome.
But anyway, thanks for having me, guys. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Yeah.